Chapter 327. Sawada Ichiro and Jiangchuan Harano were waiting at the school gate. When they saw that Tang Zheng had returned, the two of them went up to him at the same time and blocked Tang Zheng's path. Everyone knew that Ghent was a patriotic pine. Tang Zheng's pupils shrank. This pair of master and disciple actually came to the school directly. They were really in a hurry. He couldn't be more clear about their intentions. Seeing the crowd at the school gate, Tang Zheng was the first to break the silence and said, "Shall we find a quiet place?" Sawada Ichiro was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect Tang Zheng to be so calm and even take the initiative to ask to go to a quiet place. Whether the other party was pretending to be stupid or was really stupid, Sawada Ichiro accepted the suggestion. The three of them walked towards a secluded alley in the distance. At the same time, Sawada Ichiro was also silently observing Tang Zheng. Indeed, as Jiangchuan Harano said, this kid didn't have any inner force fluctuations. If it wasn't for the fact that Jiangchuan Harano lost to him, Sawada Ichiro would definitely treat Tang Zheng as an ordinary person. This kid is a little strange and has guts. It seems like he has something up his sleeve. I wonder what he's up to. Sawada Ichiro was secretly puzzled. He looked at Jiangchuan Harano and the master and disciple exchanged a look. Jiangchuan Harano was shocked. Is this Tang Zheng stupid? Can't he see that my master is a master? No matter what tricks he plays, he can't do anything in front of my master. Moreover, he offended young Master Long, so he's definitely going to die. Jiangchuan Harano couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. As long as Tang Zheng died, his Bushido club could continue to recruit new members and complete his spy mission. Before they reached the entrance of the alley, they saw a person step in front of Tang Zheng and asked with a gloomy face, "Are you Tang Zheng?" Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. Today everyone ran into each other. Tang Zheng was shocked. The person blocking his path was actually the demon god. However, the demon god had only obtained some of Takashi's fragmented memories and did not recognize Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng had used his illusions to disguise himself in many battles with the demon god, so the demon god did not know that the person he hated so much was standing in front of him. Takashi, why are you looking for me?" Tang Zheng feigned ignorance and asked. "Of course there's something I need from you," the demon god said coldly, and Xuanhuan was furious when he saw another troublemaker coming out of nowhere. "Who are you? Get out of the way and don't interfere with our work." The demon god's eyes turned cold, like the cold wind of winter, making Xuanhuan shudder. He subconsciously took a step back and exclaimed, "What are you going to do?" The other party clearly did not have any inner strength fluctuations, but he had such a terrifying gaze and aura. It was truly inconceivable. Sawada Ichiro was also shocked. He took a step forward and stood in front of his disciple. He glared at the demon god and asked, "Who are you?" The demon god looked at him disdainfully and said, "A few martial artists dare to be noisy again. Today I'm going to deal with all of you." Seeing that the other party was so arrogant, Sawada Ichiro was furious. He subconsciously thought that the other party was Tang Zheng's accomplice. He said angrily, "How dare you look down on the warriors of our island nation? Today I will bury you with him." Killing one was killing a pair was also killing. Sawada Ichiro did not care about one more ghost under his blade. Moreover, being able to kill wuxia like his senior was something he had yearned for a long time. It seemed that today he could finally fulfill his wish. The reason why the demon god came to find Tang Zheng was because when Ding Xiaowan mentioned Tang Zheng to him, he had the thought of killing Tang Zheng and absorbing his blood. Yesterday he was busy cultivating and did not have the time, so he came to find Tang Zheng early in the morning. As expected, he was found by him, but he did not expect that there would be two more martial warriors beside him. However, this was insignificant. With one more martial warriors absorbing his blood, wouldn't he be able to recover even more of his strength? Therefore, he naturally did not have the slightest bit of good expression towards Sawada Ichiro and his disciple. Instead, his face was filled with killing intent. Tang Zheng did not expect the two of them to meet. It was really interesting. He was still thinking about how to deal with Sawada Ichiro later. After all, he could not see through Sawada Ichiro's cultivation, and according to the other party's aura, it was very likely that he was in the pre-celestial stage. Facing the pre-celestial stage, Tang Zheng did not have complete confidence in killing the other party, but he also had absolute confidence that he could protect his own life, which was why he walked towards this small alley without hesitation. Now that he saw that Sawada Ichiro and the demon god were about to fight, it was simply a pleasant surprise. He looked at both sides calmly. He saw that both sides were staring at each other with murderous intent, and they both regarded each other as Tang Zheng's accomplices. Tang Zheng also realized this. He immediately jumped into the alley with the tip of his foot and disappeared in the blink of an eye. The demon god turned his head to look and was about to chase after him, but Sawada Ichiro attacked the demon god's back with one move. It seemed that this pair of masters had a tradition and both liked this kind of sneak attack. How could the demon god be afraid? He hit Sawada Ichiro's palm with his backhand, and with the help of the rebound force, he rose into the air and landed in the alley, blocking Tang Zheng's way. Sawada Ichiro took half a step back, horrified. The strength of the other party was far beyond his imagination. His face had become particularly serious and he growled, "Don't think about escaping." Whoosh. With a flash of his figure, he chased into the alley. Xuanhuan also followed closely behind. Sawada Ichiro chased into the alley, but did not directly attack Tang Zheng. Instead, he attacked the demon god. Obviously, in his eyes, the demon god was the biggest threat. Furthermore, the demon god was the backer behind Tang Zheng. Only by eliminating the demon god would he have the chance to kill Tang Zheng and fulfill Long Tingyu's wish. The demon god was also a proud person. Although he had stopped Tang Zheng when he saw Sawada Ichiro's crazy attack, he resolutely put down Tang Zheng and fought fiercely with Sawada Ichiro. Tang Zheng calmly crossed his arms and watched the show, but he did not take the opportunity to slip away. If he had slipped away, the two of them would not have fought to the death like this. Right now, it was just the right time for them to bite each other, and Tang Zheng could just sit back and reap the benefits. The demon god was unscrupulous. He had long regarded these people as his prey. Although it was broad daylight, he did not restrain himself at all and directly used his magic. A bloody mist spread out from his body and filled the alley. Sawada Ichiro and his master suddenly realized that there was a lot of bloody mist in front of them. They were shocked and could not help but exclaim, "What's going on?" When Xuanhuan saw this, he actually felt a kind of fear that came from the bottom of his heart. Seeing the bloody mist spreading towards him, he hurriedly retreated, but the bloody mist seemed to have a mind of its own and quickly surrounded him. Xuanhuan immediately coughed loudly and shouted, "Master, there's something wrong with this mist. I feel so uncomfortable." Xuanhuan kept scratching his skin, as if there were tens of thousands of insects crawling inside his skin. It was extremely itchy and unbearable. Hold your breath and use your cultivation to force the bloody mist out. Sawada Ichiro's cultivation was more profound, so the bloody mist did not cause any harm to him at first. But when he saw his disciple's miserable appearance, he understood the power of the bloody mist. His back was covered in cold sweat and he exclaimed, "What kind of evil martial art is this? How come I've never heard of it?" "You're just a martial artist. Of course you haven't heard of it. This is the demon god's demon blood devouring technique. It's not something a martial artist like you can resist," the demon god said proudly. "Demon blood devouring technique? Demon god?" Sawada Ichiro was shocked. He had never heard of such a technique, and the so-called demon god had never heard of such a title. Who was this person? How could he be so evil? Time did not allow him to think carefully. Under the pervasive bloody mist, he accidentally inhaled a few mouthfuls. His body was a little itchy and his mind was shaken. It was as if his soul was about to break out of his shell. This was a feeling that Sawada Ichiro had never felt before. It made him feel unbelievable, but it also made him extremely frightened. He felt a fatal threat. This time he was originally full of confidence, but now he was in such a mess and his life was in danger. It was a great shame. He subconsciously looked at Tang Zheng but saw that Tang Zheng was safe and sound. Although there was a bloody mist around him, it did not hurt him at all. Sawada Ichiro suddenly realized that they were together. Otherwise, with Tang Zheng's cultivation, how could he avoid the bloody mist's attack? It must be because the other party had the corresponding secret method. No, this demon god is a real master. Although I haven't been defeated yet, I can't hold on for more than 100 moves. If I continue to stay, I will only die. Run, I must run. I will find a way to take revenge later. Sawada Ichiro made up his mind. Although he saw his disciple lying on the ground twitching, he had no way to save him. He roared, and the katana in his hand glowed with cold light. He slashed at the demon god and shouted, "Kill!" The blade light turned into petals, like cherry blossoms falling from the sky. They scattered the bloody mist in front of him and went straight to the top of the demon god's head. A look of surprise flashed in the demon god's eyes. He did not expect the other party to have such a fierce move. He took a small step back and then prepared to attack with all his strength. However, as soon as he took a small step back, Sawada Ichiro turned around and fled. He rushed out of the alley, ignoring Xuanhuan Ichiro on the ground. Tang Zheng did not expect Sawada Ichiro to be so decisive. It was too late for him to stop him. Looking at the fleeing silhouette of the other party, the demon god hesitated for a moment. In the end, he did not give chase. Instead, he directly grabbed xuanhuan on the ground and bit his neck, continuously sucking his blood. Immediately, the demon god's body emitted waves of red light. In the blink of an eye, xuanhuan's blood was sucked dry and he died. He never thought that he would die like this in a foreign country. The demon god turned around and stared at Tang Zheng covetously. He said with interest, "Hey, you didn't run away? Could it be that you were scared silly? Haha, you're just a coward, yet Ding Xiaowan said that you're so powerful. However, you're a warrior after all, so sucking your blood is more useful than sucking an ordinary person's." Suddenly, the demon god's eyes turned cold. He looked at the blood mist around Tang Zheng in shock. The blood mist was completely isolated from Tang Zheng's body. He could not help but exclaim, "How is this possible?" Chapter 328. It was indeed impossible. The demon god's demon blood soul devouring technique was extremely lethal to ordinary people or martial artists. Furthermore, when trained to the extreme, it could indeed devour the opponent's soul. No advertisement, this was an extremely vicious cultivation technique, but it had a fatal weakness. It was not very useful to cultivators, because the innate chi of cultivators had a natural resistance to the blood mist. Of course, if the martial artist was a person with a high cultivation, they would not be afraid of the blood mist. However, it was obvious that Tang Zheng was not such a person, but he was safe and sound. The demon god was immediately shocked. He looked at Tang Zheng with his mouth agape and asked, "How did you do it? How can you not be afraid of my demon blood soul devouring technique?" Tang Zheng snorted. Just as he was about to answer, he saw a figure quickly approaching. In the blink of an eye, his heart trembled, and he immediately swallowed the words he was about to blurt out. Tang Zheng's entire body tensed up. He became especially vigilant, even more vigilant than when facing the demon god. This was because the person in front of him was his greatest enemy, Martial. He did not know why Martial had come, but he was simply haunting him. Last night, Martial had investigated the cause of death of Xuanhuan and Meng Yao, and from the information provided by the Li Palace, she found out that the deceased seemed to have a grudge with Tang Zheng, and had met with Tang Zheng and Takashi the day before. She wanted to come to Yenching University to ask the two of them about the specific situation. However, he did not expect that when he was not far from the school gate, he would feel a fluctuation in the air. This was definitely the result of a battle between experts. As a result, Martial rushed over without hesitation, and coincidentally saw that there was still a faint blood mist floating in the alley. Furthermore, there was a corpse lying on the ground, and Tang Zheng and Takashi were facing each other. Martial subconsciously shouted, Takashi, Tang Zheng." The demon god subconsciously turned his head to look, his pupils constricting. Wasn't this the martial artist who had stopped him from descending into this world? When the enemy met, their eyes turned red, and the demon god's eyes burned with an even stronger killing intent than before. However, Wu did not notice it for a moment, and instead quickly arrived in front of the demon god, and asked suspiciously, "What's going on?" Without speaking, only a cold blood blade answered her. With a flash of red light, the demon god stabbed the blood blade into Martial's lower abdomen at lightning speed. Immediately, a look of disbelief burst out from Martial's eyes. He subconsciously used his roaring flame blade to slash at the demon god. The demon god retreated and the attack missed. Martial lowered her head to look at the wound, only to see blood flowing out. Ever since she started her career, she had never suffered such a serious injury. And this attack was launched by Takashi. She looked at Takashi in disbelief and said, "You? Who exactly are you? Why are you so powerful?" If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have ended up like this after I was born. You're that Wu Zong person, right? Since that's the case, I'll start with you today." The demon god said murderously. Martial suddenly realized, "You are the demon god? That's me. It's your honor to die at my hands today. You're a cultivator, I'm going to kill you." She never thought that she would meet the demon god so unexpectedly. She originally thought that she would spend some effort to investigate his whereabouts, but he appeared in front of her just like that and even heavily injured her. "Ah, you still want to kill me like this? It's more like I want to kill you. Go and die." The demon god fiercely pounced towards Martial. Seeing that Tang Zheng did not save him. Martial was his enemy. If the demon god could kill her, it would be equivalent to helping him. Martial was not an idiot. Back then, she was not a match for the demon god, let alone now that she was heavily injured. She was filled with regret and immediately retreated. However, the demon god's movements were obviously very fast. In the blink of an eye, the blood blade had pierced through Martial's chest. If it had gone a few inches further, Martial's heart would have been pierced through. Tang Zheng's heart couldn't help but beat faster. As long as Martial died, he would have one less problem. The sound of something breaking through the air arrived like a flash of lightning, heading straight for the demon god's head. This aura was extremely sharp. The demon god raised his head and waved his blood blade. With a crisp clang, a cold light shot into the wall beside him. With a bang, fragments flew everywhere as an iron arrow buzzed and trembled non-stop. Martial took this opportunity and quickly retreated, once again distancing himself from the demon god. Tang Zheng looked at the iron arrow and was extremely angry. Just who was it that ruined his plans? A graceful figure descended from the sky. She held an iron bow in her hand, which was slightly smaller than the heaven-shocking bow. The bow was engraved with beautiful patterns, like a handicraft. However, no one would doubt the lethality of this iron bow, because the arrow just now had already displayed its might. Furthermore, it was held in Li Xiaoyan's hands. Li Xiaoyan's mouth curled up into a faint smile. He looked at the demon god and said, "So you are the demon god?" After he finished speaking, he glanced at Tang Zheng with a smile that was not a smile. Tang Zheng's head moved. Why was it this black-bellied woman again? Last time in the 10,000 huge mountains, he had finally gotten rid of her with great difficulty, and had even exposed his identity as a cultivator in front of her. Why did she appear in the capital so coincidentally? Tang Zheng was very clear that as long as the other party appeared, things would not be simple. Her thoughts were even more complicated than martial arts, and she was good at scheming and moody. "Who are you?" The demon god stared at Li Xiaotian and asked in bewilderment. "I'm just a passerby. I saw that you guys were fighting so enthusiastically, so I came to join in the fun," Li Xiaotian said while beaming. "Humph, joining in the fun will cost you your life. Since you are also a martial artist, then I will kill you without hesitation." The demon god's body trembled, and he used the demon blood-devouring soul technique again, causing the blood mist to fill the air. Although Li Xiaotian had never seen the power of the blood mist, since he knew that the other party was a cultivator, he directly believed that the blood mist must be very dangerous. Thus, she leaped and flew directly over the demon god's head, her fingers slightly hooked. Clang! With a crisp sound, the iron arrow that was nailed into the wall flew out by itself, turning around and shooting towards the demon god. Spell? The demon god was shocked, and even Tang Zheng could not help but widen his eyes. The iron arrow had clearly shot into the wall, so why did it fly out by itself? However, both of them rejected this idea at the same time. This was not a spell because Li Xiaotian was a martial artist, so it was impossible for her to use a spell. It was because there was a thin thread at the end of the iron sword, and the other end of the thin thread was in Li Xiaotian's hand. Therefore, although the iron arrow was shot out, it was still under the control of Li Xiaotian, so it could be reused. The iron arrow shot towards the demon god, but the demon god did not retreat. Instead, he advanced, and with a flash of red light, the blood blade slashed at the iron arrow, and with another slash, he directly cut into the void at the end of the arrow. An extremely subtle sound of air vibrations was heard, which was the effect of the thin thread breaking. Without control, the iron arrow fell to the ground, losing its threat. The demon god snorted disdainfully, "Petty tricks." He waved his hands forward, and the blood mist surged like a ferocious beast, spreading towards Li Xiaotian. Li Xiaotian chuckled. He was not afraid, but instead hid behind Tang Zheng in a flash and said softly, "It's all up to you now." Tang Zheng felt a headache coming on. This woman really did not have good intentions. She actually brought the flames of war to him. Facing the attack of the demon god, he could not possibly ignore it. In addition, Wu was still eyeing him covetously from not too far away. If he used the War Soul Sword or Heaven-Shocking Bow, then Wu would definitely see through his identity. For the time being, he did not want to draw the anger of the martial sect onto himself. Thus, he could only use his bare hands to push forward with both palms. Whoosh whoosh. The wind from his palm whistled, blocking the blood mist. The demon god was puzzled. Why wasn't this brat afraid of his move? "How did you do it?" Tang Zheng was extremely vexed. "Please don't dwell on this question, and don't speak carelessly. If you speak too much, it will be bad if you arouse Wu's suspicion." Thus, he took the initiative to attack, forcing the demon god to shut up. "Brat, you're courting death." Seeing that, the demon god roared non-stop. Although he did not know why this brat was so strange and different from the rest, he still had absolute confidence in killing him. Immediately, the two of them started to fight in the midst of the withering blood. Fortunately, the blood mist was everywhere, and Wu could not see the details, so he did not suspect Tang Zheng's identity. But even so she was still shocked. She originally thought that an insignificant fellow actually had such strength, to be able to tangle with the demon god for so long. Actually, Tang Zheng's cultivation was obviously not a match for the demon god. Furthermore, he did not have the help of the War Soul Sword or the Heaven-Shocking Bow, so he was even less of a match for the demon god. However, he was a cultivator after all, and the demon god had always treated Tang Zheng as a warrior. As a result, Tang Zheng was able to capture a lot of useful information from the trajectory of the demon god's attacks, and was able to avoid some fatal injuries. However, even so, Tang Zheng was still in a sorry state as he fled in all directions. Li Xiaotian, on the other hand, held onto his iron bow, and watched the scene with interest. He praised in his heart, "Tang Zheng is really not human, it has only been a while since I last saw him, and his cultivation has obviously been injured by another level. Could it be that cultivators are so powerful when they cultivate? Didn't they say that the spirit chi of heaven and earth in this world was thin, and that the cultivation of cultivators was very slow? Why is this brat so ferocious as if he has eaten aphrodisiac?" Of course, Tang Zheng did not know what Li Xiaotian was thinking, but without a weapon, it was equivalent to him tying his own feet, and it was impossible for him to defeat the demon god. The demon god's attacks became fiercer and fiercer. Tang Zheng was already starting to get injured. He could not help but fly into a rage and shouted, "Li Xiaotian, do you want to just watch me get killed?" The corner of Li Xiaotian's mouth curled up. He thought to himself, "Who told you to steal my heaven-shocking bow? Humph, this bit of suffering is just interest, it's too insignificant." When Martial heard this, he was inexplicably shocked. This Tang Zheng actually knew Li Xiaotian. One must know that as the holy maiden of the Li Palace, Li Xiaotian could not easily leave the Li Palace. There were very few people who knew her, much less men. The people of Li Palace had an innate hostility towards men. "Tang Zheng, give me my things and I'll help you," Li Xiaotian said with a smile. "You're taking advantage of the situation. You're really smart. You even found out about this." Li Xiaotian exaggeratedly covered her mouth and exclaimed. Chapter 329. "If I die, you really won't be able to find that thing for the rest of your life. Tell the pavilion master," Tang Zheng said. Li Xiaotian frowned and muttered to himself, "That's right, that means you can't die yet. But you're so cunning, I helped you and you want to act shamelessly again, what should I do?" Tang Zheng said snappily, "Do you want to help or not?" It was definitely not normal for Li Xiaotian to appear here. Tang Zheng smelled a conspiracy, and why would Martial appear so coincidentally? There must be a demon behind this abnormality. He suspected that all of this was most likely related to Li Xiaotian. This woman's thoughts were too complicated, and ordinary people would not be able to guess them. But no matter what she was planning, he could not reveal his identity as a cultivator under Martial's nose. Seeing that the demon god was attacking again, Tang Zheng did not resist anymore. His hands drooped down, and looked at Li Xiaotian provocatively. "Ha, die." The demon god laughed sinisterly. The blood blade flashed with a red light, and with killing intent, it pierced towards Tang Zheng's chest. Martial was shocked by this scene, but she could not protect herself, so she could not do anything. Li Xiaotian was so angry that he blew his eyebrows and glared and said angrily, "Tang Zheng, you're shameless." However, the movements of his hands did not stop. He knocked an arrow on his bow, and 3 arrows were knocked on the bowstring. The bowstring trembled and 3 arrows pierced through the air. From this point, it could be seen that Li Xiaotian was definitely an expert in archery. No wonder she had such a soft spot for the heaven-shocking bow. The demon god could have killed Tang Zheng with this attack, but he could not ignore the 3 iron arrows behind him. With an unwilling roar, he turned around and faced the 3 iron arrows. The 3 iron arrows attacked from the top, middle and bottom, and were incomparably sharp. At the same time, Tang Zheng was not idle either. He pounced towards the demon god, and the attacks from the front and back made the demon god even angrier. To think that he would be in such a sorry state by a few martial warriors, it was simply a great humiliation. Clang clang clang. The 3 arrows were blocked, but then Li Xiaotian's hands moved, quickly pulling the bowstring. Every time she released the bowstring, an iron arrow would shoot out, and in the blink of an eye, she had unleashed a chain of arrows, 9 iron arrows, one after another, covering the sky and the earth, enveloping the demon god. With a wolf in front and a tiger behind him, the demon god's back. "I'm going to kill all of you martial warriors, none of you will survive." Bang! Tang Zheng slapped the back of the demon god, causing the demon god to stagger forward. The rain of arrows that filled the sky also arrived on time. The demon god waved his blood blade, and a wall of blood light interweaved into a blood light to block the rain of arrows. Tang Zheng to say, Tang to say, Tang Jing to of Tang. Who is it that came to the capital to cause trouble? Suddenly, a heaven-shaking roar exploded, and a person descended from the sky. The demon god was shocked. He raised his head to look at the person who came. He immediately removed the wall of light and turned to escape. Where do you think you're going? The person chased after them like a shadow, and the two of them disappeared in the blink of an eye. The situation was constantly changing. No one had expected that a peerless expert would suddenly appear and actually scare the demon god away. With a glance, Tang Jing recognized the person. The other party was actually Yan Qishan, a dignified expert of the Great Master realm. Tang Jing did not want to have too much contact with Yan Qishan, so he turned around and walked out of the alley, passing by Wu. Li Xiaotian immediately chased after him, and when he passed by Wu he said, "You are injured, quickly go and heal your injuries, otherwise how will you deal with cultivators in the future?" Wu's face darkened and he walked away without saying a word. Li Xiaotian chased after Tang Jing and asked, "Why are you running so fast? Are you trying to get rid of me again?" "I still have to go to class," Tang Jing said coldly. I almost forgot that you're still a student, but before you go to class return my things to me." Li Xiaotian spread out his hands and said, "What do I owe you?" "Heaven shocking bow. Didn't I say it before? I left it in the prehistoric heavenly tomb. If you want it, go find it." "Humph, you're still trying to lie to me. Although I don't know how you brought the heaven shocking bow out, I'm sure that the heaven shocking bow is in your hands. Hurry up and give it to me." "The heaven shocking bow isn't yours, why should I give it to you?" "You?" Li Xiaotian was furious, but after thinking about it, there was no way he could force him like this, so he could only take it slow. "Since he couldn't return so quickly after coming out this time, I'll stay by your side and find clues about the heaven shocking bow." Thus, a cunning smile appeared in her eyes as she said, "I've never been to school before. It wasn't easy for me to come to university this time, so I'll go and take a look as well. I'll accompany you to class." Li Xiaotian disassembled the iron bow into its components, then placed it into the bag on his back along with the iron arrow and said, "Let's go, lead the way." Tang Jing could not help but roll his eyes and said, "Who promised you that I would bring you to class? Since you don't give me the heaven-shocking bow, I'll follow you until you give it to me." Li Xiaotian shrugged and said, how could Tang Jing be intimidated by her formation? He said, "If you want to follow me, then follow me." With that, he strode towards the campus, but before he could take a few steps, he was stopped by Yan Qishan who had returned. He smiled faintly and greeted, "Tang Jing, long time no see." "Long time no see. Did you catch up to him?" Yan Qishan shook his head. "Cultivators are indeed cunning," he escaped. Li Xiaotian agreed upon hearing that, "Yes, cultivators are extremely cunning, they are simply despicable." As he spoke, he looked at Tang Jing as if he was referring to something. Tang Jing obviously knew that she was scolding him indirectly, so he pretended not to hear it. Yan Qishan did not understand the meaning of this sentence and smiled at Li Xiaotian. "Holy Maiden, since you have come to the capital, our Yan family should do our part as a host. If the Holy Maiden does not mind, can you move to the Dragon Elephant Mountain?" Hearing that, Tang Jing guessed that the Yan family must have a good relationship with the Li Palace. If Li Xiaotian followed Yan Qishan and left, he would simply clap his hands and cheer. But Li Xiaotian clearly did not let him do as he wished. She shook her head without hesitation and refused. "I still have things to do, I want to follow this guy." She pointed at Tang Jing. Yan Qishan was greatly astonished. He did not know why the Holy Maiden of the Li Palace had such a complicated relationship with Tang Jing. This little brat really could not be underestimated. Moreover, from the information brought back by Yan Qingyi, Tang Jing had contact with the martial organization. At such a young age, he actually had contact with two of the three most mysterious organizations in the world. It was truly hard to imagine. Yan Qishan could not help but look at Tang Jing a few more times, but he found that he was becoming more and more unable to see through him. "Li Xiaotian, the Yan family is a large family. They invited you with great hospitality, it is not appropriate for you to not give face," Tang Jing said. Li Xiaotian rolled her eyes at him and said, "Do you need to care about my matters? Where I go is my freedom, outsiders have no right to interfere." Yan Qishan immediately smiled and said, "What the Holy Maiden said is extremely correct. The Yan family naturally will not interfere with the Holy Maiden's freedom. If the Holy Maiden has free time, please come to Longxiang Mountain for a chat." After he finished speaking, he deeply looked at Tang Jing and sighed in his heart. This little brat's courage was really not ordinary. He actually dared to ridicule Li Xiaotian. Just what was the relationship between the two of them? Seeing that Yin Qishan had left, Tang Jing continued to walk towards the campus. Li Xiaotian was like a burden, blindly following him. The combination of the two attracted the gazes of many people. In the school, Tang Jing could be considered a small celebrity. After all, the matter of him challenging the Bushido Society yesterday was witnessed by many people. Then it spread by word of mouth, becoming the topic of many people's leisure conversations. Moreover, the scandal between Tang Jing and Yi Dingdang was also spread like wildfire, making many male students jealous. What was hateful was that this guy's luck with women seemed to be a bit too good. This time he actually strolled around the campus with another beauty that did not lose out to Yi Dingdang. At this time many people were about to go crazy. This brat was eating from the bowl and looking at the pot. Moreover, he was doing it openly without any concealment. He was too arrogant. Many people looked at Tang Jing with eyes full of hostility. I think your popularity is really bad. Look at the way others look at you as if they can't wait to eat you alive. Li Xiaotian teased with interest. Tang Jing said, "Isn't it all because of you?" He coldly snorted and ignored her. When he walked into the teaching building, the bell rang for class. Tang Jing walked towards the classroom, and immediately the entire classroom's attention was attracted. The students of Archaeology Class 1 had complicated feelings towards Tang Jing. There was nothing they could do about it. The things that Tang Jing had done were too shocking. Especially that confrontation with the police. Many people in this class had seen it with their own eyes, and yesterday's one-on-one incident had made him even more famous. The archaeology department was the smallest department in the entire school, and most of them were bookworms. For a long time, their presence in the school had not been strong. However, this year, a monstrous figure had appeared. Many seniors were asking them about the deeds of Tang Jing. Many people wanted to see the number one person in the archaeology department with their own eyes. Yes, Tang Jing was already recognized as the number one person in the archaeology department. No one doubted this because he was too eye-catching, far exceeding the scope of common knowledge of ordinary students. Therefore, most of the students did not have any ill feelings towards Tang Jing. Instead, they felt that it was an honor for the archaeology department to have such a fierce person. It was an honor to be able to increase the reputation of the archaeology department. However, today's scene had once again shocked their minds. Everyone watched in disbelief as a top-notch beauty followed Tang Jing into the classroom and followed him to his seat. The members of Class 502 had already occupied Tang Jing's seat. Tang Jing walked straight over and sat down, while Sinosaurus and the other two were still staring blankly at Li Xiaotian. Li Xiaotian pointed at Sinosaurus and said, "Stand up and sit aside." "Why should I give you my seat?" Tang Jing asked unhappily. "If I don't sit in his seat, where should I sit?" Li Xiaotian asked. Sinosaurus laughed. "It's all right, Beauty, please sit." He quickly stood up. "Beauty, are you from our class? Why haven't I seen you before?" "She's not a student, so just ignore her. She's just a burden." Tang Jing ridiculed. Chapter 330. Tang Jing, don't spout nonsense. I've never been to school. I'm not a burden, Li Xiaotian corrected him. Everyone around them perked up their ears. When they heard that Li Xiaotian had never been to school, they all looked at him in disbelief. After all, Li Xiaotian was about the same age as the others and had an outstanding aura. "It's exactly because I've never been to school that I want to experience it. This is the best university in the country. I'd like to attend one of your classes." "Welcome, welcome," Sinosaurus said excitedly while winking at Tang Jing. He seemed to be asking him to tell the truth. Where did he go to kidnap such a beautiful girl? As for Tang Jing's luck with women, have all the members of 502 passed away? The bespectacled man nodded and said, "The specific author of this painting is no longer known. However, it is inferred that it was painted by a master painter 1,500 years ago. Legend has it that he saw a fairy descending from the 9 heavens and used that as inspiration to paint this painting." "The student is right. Sit down." Xuanhuan praised, "This painting has been passed down to this day. Since ancient times, there have been very few forgeries of this painting because no one has been able to fully express the charm of the painting. In the original painting, the fairy descending to the mortal world is full of spiritual energy. It's as if a real person is standing in front of you." "Wow, is it really that amazing? Do fairies really exist in this world?" Many people were discussing. Xuanhuan smiled gently and the wrinkles on his face eased slightly. He said, "Some of you may think that I'm exaggerating, but I want to tell you that this is not an exaggeration. It's the truth. This painting is now kept in the National Museum and is not on display. I've seen it a few times and every time I see it, it's as if a fairy is standing in front of me. It's an indescribable feeling. Hearing his words, the crowd was even more amazed. They thought that if they were lucky enough to see this painting, it would be the greatest blessing of 3 lifetimes. It's just a forgery. It's almost blown to the sky. Someone snorted disdainfully. This voice wasn't soft, it was crisp and penetrating. Everyone heard it. Immediately, everyone looked towards the source of the voice and discovered that the owner of the voice was actually Li Xiaotian. Xiaohuan's face darkened. He glared at Li Xiaotian and said, "What did you say?" You said that the 9 Heavens Maids painting in the National Museum is a fake," Li Xiaotian said in a shocking tone. Tang Jing was also startled by her actions. She was really a troublemaker. He hurriedly tugged at her sleeves and said, "You're not a student. Pay attention to the class and don't interrupt." "He's wrong, I'm just correcting him. I have good intentions, I don't want him to continue down the wrong path," Li Xiaotian solemnly vowed. Seeing her boasting so shamelessly, Tang Jing could only shake his head and smile bitterly. Li Xiaotian was good at lying. Her words were probably 90% false and 1% true. It was difficult to distinguish the truth from the lies. Therefore Tang Jing did not know why she made such a fuss. "Both of you stand up." Seeing Tang Jing and Li Xiaotian whispering to each other, Xuanhuan immediately flew into a rage. He hated it when students spouted nonsense about things they did not understand. Archaeology required rigorous spirit, not sensationalism. Moreover, she dared to say that the painting in the museum was a fake. This was equivalent to challenging his reputation. He had seen the painting and was certain that it was authentic. If this person dared to question the painting, it was the same as questioning him. How could he tolerate this? Tang Jing was caught in the crossfire. He thought to himself, "What does it have to do with me?" However, he still stood up. Li Xiaotian, on the other hand, continued to sit as if nothing had happened. "Why are you still sitting? Stand up." Xuanhuan shouted in a deep voice. "I corrected your mistake. Instead of thanking me, you want me to stand up. How dare you?" Li Xiaotian stood up and said angrily. This sentence was so powerful that the others did not know whether to laugh or cry. "Girl, I admit that you are very beautiful. However, this kind of academic problem is not something that can be solved by a face and a figure. Why do you have to spout nonsense like this? Hey, are you telling the truth or not?" Tang Jing could not figure out what was on her mind. Seeing that she was angry and did not seem to be faking it, he asked in a low voice. "Of course I'm telling the truth. Do I have to lie?" Li Xiaotian said angrily. "Stop mumbling. Speak loudly. As a student of the archaeology department, you dare to spout such baseless nonsense." "Humph, this is the first time I've seen such a thing in all my years of teaching," Xuanhuan said angrily. Li Xiaotian could not take it anymore. She retorted loudly, "Who said that I have no evidence? I said that the painting in the museum is fake. Of course it is fake. Moreover, I have real evidence." The others' interest was piqued. They stared at Li Xiaotian intently, waiting to see what she could say. Zhou Yan asked quietly, "Third brother, who is this person you brought with you? Why is she so arrogant?" Tang Jing shook his head and smiled bitterly. He could only wait and see. Xuanhuan was so angry that he laughed and said, "Fine, show me your so-called real evidence. I'd like to see it for myself and broaden my horizons." "Then I'll broaden your horizons," Li Xiaotian said. "That fake painting is indeed good enough to pass off as the real thing. However, a fake is a fake. Can never replace the real thing. The imitator deliberately left a flaw in the painting. It's just that the later generations were too stupid to notice this flaw." Xuanhuan's face flushed red again. Naturally, he was included in the list of stupid later generations. He believed that no one would be happy to be called stupid by a person who was old enough to be his granddaughter. He took a few deep breaths to suppress the anger in his heart. He asked, "What exactly is the flaw?" Tang Jing heard Li Xiaotian's words and could not help but believe her. She did not have to provoke an old man whom she did not know. Therefore his interest was piqued. He wanted to know what her so-called flaw was. "Look at the bottom right corner of this painting. The jade pendant hanging from the waist has no words on it. However, the fake one has the word Li on it," Li Xiaotian said. Xuanhuan was stunned for a moment. Then he laughed and said, "This is your so-called flaw? What a joke." At first, Deng Xiaowen thought that there was a flaw in the painting when he saw how confident Xuanhuan was. He did not expect Xuanhuan to say something like that. The others were curious. They did not know what Xuanhuan's laughter meant. Xuanhuan stopped smiling and said in a low voice, "Let me tell you, your so-called flaws are all fabricated. What Li character? You're lying to those who haven't seen that painting. I've seen that painting more than 10 times. There's no Li character on that jade pendant at all. Wow. Everyone looked at Li Xiaotian with complicated gazes. It turned out that what she had said for a long time was actually a lie. However, Tang Zheng's feeling was completely different. Although Li Xiaotian was usually full of nonsense, at this moment, Tang Zheng believed that what she said was true. This was a feeling. Li Xiaotian seemed to have expected this. She said calmly, "That's why I said you're stupid. It's been 200 years and no one has discovered this flaw. Let me tell you how to verify it. Believe it or not. Go find some water and sprinkle it on the jade pendant. Later you can see if the word Li is on it." Sprinkle water? Everyone was dumbfounded. This kind of ancient painting could be considered a national treasure. Everyone was eager to protect it. Who would be willing to sprinkle water on it? Crazy, absolutely crazy, Qi Shaoan muttered incessantly. Li Xiaotian chuckled. She did not comment. This was the first time Qi Shaoan had encountered such a situation. Perhaps it was Li Xiaotian's confident expression that provoked him. He decided to convince the student wholeheartedly. He said, "Wait here. I'll make a phone call right away. If the so-called Li character doesn't appear, you'll fail this course." Qi Shaoan stormed out of the classroom to make the phone call. Meanwhile, the classroom was in an uproar. Chapter 331. Everyone was whispering and discussing spiritedly. This class was truly unexpected. Everyone was very curious as to what the final result would be. However, most people still believed Qi Shaoan's words. After all, his words represented authority in the field of archaeology. Zhou Yin and a few others came up and asked worriedly, "Third brother, who is this beauty? How dare she talk back to Professor Qi? Don't you know that he's famous for his stubbornness? He even dared to talk back to the principal. You're in for it now." Tang Zheng glanced at Li Xiaotian and smiled mysteriously. That might not be the case. "Oh, do you believe this beauty's words? Is the National Museum's Ladies of the Nine Heavens painting real or fake?" A few people were surprised. This time Tang Zheng did believe Li Xiaotian. He said, "We'll see in a while." Li Xiaotian heard this and said teasingly, "Didn't you always doubt me? Why do you believe me now?" "It's just a feeling." Li Xiaotian smiled faintly. "So your teacher isn't that great after all? I thought all the teachers in the university were amazing. You can't tell the difference between real and fake." Qi Shaoan walked in and happened to hear this sentence. His face flushed red, but he did not say anything to stop them. However, the complicated expression on his face was obvious to the observant. Qi Shaoan walked straight to Li Xiaotian and asked in a deep voice, "May I ask how you know that the Ladies of the Nine Heavens painting is fake?" As soon as he said this, everyone suddenly realized that this beauty was right. The National Museum's collection over the years was all fake. This was a big joke. "Because I've seen the real thing. Of course, I know that the others are fake," Li Xiaotian said calmly. "You've seen the real thing?" Qi Shaoan's expression changed and he became agitated. "Where is the real thing?" Li Xiaotian said with a smile that was not a smile, "So you admit that the Nine Heavens Maids painting in the museum is a fake?" Qi Shaoan took a deep breath and nodded reluctantly. "Academics are rigorous. Although I'm reluctant to admit it, I have to admit that you're right. When the jade pendant in the painting was soaked with water, the word Li would appear. According to ancient records, this is impossible. Just like what you said, it could only be a flaw left behind by a later imitator. Although you're stubborn, at least you dare to speak the truth. Since that's the case, I'll satisfy your curiosity. 200 years ago, the painting of Maids of the Nine Heavens was obtained by a scholar. He was the creator of this fake painting, but he gave the real one to someone else. Who did you give it to? What does that Li character represent? Is it the name of this scholar? What is his name?" Qi Shaoan ignored Li Xiaotian's comment about his stubbornness. Instead, he was like a studious student, humbly asking for advice. "I can only tell you that the Li character is not the scholar's name. As for the scholar's name, I don't know either. Also, I can't tell you anything else," Li Xiaotian said firmly. Qi Shaoan said stubbornly, "If we can figure this out, it will be a big deal for the archaeology world. Student, please don't keep it to yourself." Li Xiaotian firmly shook her head. The original copy of the painting of Maids of the Nine Heavens was in the Li Palace. Speaking of the origin of this painting, it involved the first palace master of the Li Palace, who was also the founder of the Li Palace. Back then, the first palace master of Li Palace fell in love with a scholar. The scholar gave her his precious painting of Maids of the Nine Heavens as a token of his love. The scholar was also a genius. He actually made a copy of the painting of Maids of the Nine Heavens, and its artistic value was not as good as the original. However, he purposely left a flaw, which was that Li character which was one of the palace master of Li Palace's name. However, good times did not last long. This scholar eventually found a new love and abandoned her, breaking the palace master of Li Palace's heart. From then on, the palace master of Li Palace and the scholar separated, creating the mysterious palace master of Li Palace. There were no men in Li Palace, because the palace master of Li Palace was hurt by love and hated men. He did not allow any men to set foot in Li Palace. If I say I won't tell you, then I won't tell you. It's useless even if you try to persuade me. Li Xiaotian was firm. This was the first time Xuanhuan had ever begged someone so humbly. Moreover, it was his own student. If you let me see the original painting of Maids of the Nine Heavens, then even if you don't come to this class in the future, I will still give you high marks. Hearing this, the others were envious. It was said that this class was the most difficult. With this promise, wouldn't it be great in the future? Unexpectedly, Li Xiaotian still refused. She was not a student of this class in the first place. Why would she care about high marks? Xuanhuan was at his wit's end. He hung his head dejectedly, like a defeated general. He shook his head and said, "You guys sit down." Then he walked back to the podium. "Can't you just let him see it?" Tang Jing persuaded. Li Xiaotian curled her lips and said, "That painting is in Li Palace's collection. I've only seen it a few times since I was young. Usually, only the palace master has the right to see it. How can I let him see it?" Tang Jing said, "No wonder." However, he was also very curious about the painting. He asked, "Then what's the deal with this painting?" "I can't tell you." Xuanhuan continued his lecture. However, it was obvious that he was in low spirits. He seemed a little out of it. It was not until he took out two ancient bronze artifacts that he regained some of his spirit. These are bronze masks made by the ancient people 3,000 years ago. What do you think is the difference? Xuanhuan asked. Everyone focused their attention on the bronze masks. Both masks were slightly modeled and had the characteristics of ancient artifacts. Moreover, the masks themselves had a ferocious expression. They looked like some kind of ferocious beast, which made people feel a little guilty at first glance. This mask is a kind of worship that the ancient people had for totems. The ferocious beast on this mask was the object of their worship. Usually, this mask would only be worn during large-scale sacrificial ceremonies. This mask was found in an ancient tomb 30 years ago. It has great archaeological and aesthetic value. However, I have to say that one of these two masks is a fake. I wonder if anyone can tell the difference. Xuanhuan looked at Li Xiaotian expectantly. The others also looked at Li Xiaotian in unison, hoping that she could create a miracle and tell the difference. However, Li Xiaotian subconsciously shook her head. Obviously, she could not tell the difference. However, when she turned her head, she saw Tang Jing staring at the mask. "Hey, what are you looking at? You look so serious," Li Xiaotian asked curiously. Tang Jing's eyes looked like they were about to sink into the bronze mask. He could not help but be surprised because he saw a stream of air flowing slowly inside one of the bronze masks. Moreover, that bronze mask had an ancient aura. However, the other bronze mask did not have the slightest difference. It was no different from an ordinary bronze mask. Could it be that the one with the stream of air is the real thing? Tang Jing mused. Xuanhuan saw Li Xiaotian shake her head and could not help but look regretful. He then glanced at the others and found that most of them had their heads lowered, as if they were afraid that he would pick them to answer the question. No, there was one exception. This person was staring at the bronze mask without blinking. He seemed very interested and could not hide the surprise in his eyes. Wasn't this the boy who had been whispering to Li Xiaotian? Xuanhuan's heart was filled with anticipation. He pointed at Tang Jing and said, "Tell me which one of these two is the real thing?" Tang Jing pointed at the mask without hesitation and said, "This one." His firm tone stunned Xuanhuan. "How did you know?" "Intuition." "Intuition?" Xuanhuan frowned. Many of the others snorted. It was just a wild guess. Xuanhuan also guessed that this must be a wild guess. However, he guessed right. He nodded and said, "You're lucky. This one is the real thing." However, looking at the serious expression on Tang Jing's face, Xuanhuan's heart skipped a beat. He said, "You can't just rely on your intuition to identify antiques. You need to know the history and relevant knowledge. If you get it right once or twice, it's just luck. It's not real skill." Li Xiaotian was not convinced. She retorted, "Sometimes intuition is much more useful than all those random knowledge. For example, you know so much. How come you can't identify the authenticity of the Ladies of the Nine Heavens painting?" Xuanhuan blushed and said, "Student, you can't say that. It's a compulsory course for ancient examiners to know the relevant professional knowledge. How can you just rely on your intuition? I've been in this profession for my whole life and I've never heard of anyone who can identify antiques based on their intuition. Li Xiaotian continued, others can't do it, but that doesn't mean he can't. Tang Jing, am I right? She winked at him. Tang Jing's heart was shocked. F***ck, he was once again tricked by this black-bellied woman. She was a fraud. What she said was clearly putting him on the fire to roast. Her intentions were truly hateful. Sure enough, Xuanhuan said indignantly, you said he can identify antiques based on his intuition, right? Well, I'll verify it today. Everyone can see clearly that archaeology is not based on intuition. It requires real knowledge as the foundation. The others were secretly satisfied. This class was full of twists and turns. They thought it would be peaceful, but they didn't expect to see such a scene. They all looked at Tang Jing curiously. Everyone was full of expectations for the #1 person in the archaeology department. They wondered if he could create another miracle. However, most people thought it was unlikely that a miracle would happen. After all, it was impossible to guess blindly based on intuition. Wang Shiji advised with concern, Lao San, there's no need to argue with Professor Qi. Otherwise you'll fail at the end of the term. If you can really identify antiques based on your intuition, then you don't need to attend my class. I'll definitely give you a high score at the end of the term. Qi Shaoan threw out a huge bait. Tang Jing's eyes lit up. This old professor was so difficult to deal with. It would be difficult to skip his class in the future. If he could get this exemption, then he could use the time in this class to do other things in the future. Chapter 332. Everyone else stared at Tang Jing in disbelief, wondering if he was joking. Was he really trying to judge the authenticity of an antique by feeling? Alright, then I'll prove that you're wrong. Qi Shaoan took out a few more items from the box. There were 2 porcelain bowls, 2 small incense burners and 2 short knives. He said, judge for yourself. Besides, I can let you walk over and take a look. You can also touch them with your hands. Tang Jing was eager to try. He strode up to the podium and laid out the items one by one in front of him. I don't believe that you'll be able to get them all right by guessing. Qi Shaoan said, one of these 3 antiques is a fake while the other is the real deal. Tang Jing nodded calmly. He had already seen through the clues. These 3 antiques did not have the aura of the bronze mask, but he could feel the vicissitudes of history. Why is the bronze mask the only one with aura? Tang Jing was surprised. Even without the aura he could tell if the mask was real or fake. The vicissitudes of history could not be faked. Ordinary people would not be able to perceive the vicissitudes of history because their senses were not as sharp as Tang Jing's. As his cultivation level increased, his perception of the outside world became sharper and clearer. Tang Jing held the bronze mask suspiciously. The aura on the mask swooshed into Tang Jing's hand and heart, then quickly flowed into his body through his meridians. What's going on? However, the aura was not threatening at all. Instead, it was mixed with a cooling sensation which made Tang Jing feel very comfortable. Finally, the aura merged into his energy center and transformed into true qi, filling his body with true qi. This aura can be transformed into true qi. Tang Jing was overjoyed. But what's so special about this bronze mask? Why don't the other 3 antiques have any aura? How do you feel? Can you tell which one is real and which one is fake? Qi Shaoan asked. Seeing that Tang Jing was silent, the crowd began to whisper. Is he deliberately mystifying? Judging by his senses? I've never heard of anything like that. I think he won't be able to guess it. That's not necessarily true. Tang Jing can create miracles every time. Maybe he can do it this time too. The crowd was divided into 2 groups, and they all stared at Tang Jing with burning eyes. Tang Jing abruptly raised his head and glanced at Qi Shaoan. The corners of his mouth curled into a smile. He quickly picked out the 3 authentic ones and said confidently, these 3 are authentic. Qi Shaoan's expression suddenly changed. He stared at Tang Jing as if he was looking at a monster. He exclaimed, how is this possible? How did you do it? Tang Jing smiled mysteriously. It's a feeling. Qi Shaoan was skeptical. Did you really just rely on your instincts? Tang Jing nodded. Qi Shaoan was still in disbelief. He quickly took out a few more items from the box and said, these aren't the same. They're all different kinds of antiques. Some of them are real, some are fake. Take a look and see which ones are authentic. Tang Jing swept his eyes over them and found that not a single one of them had a flow of air inside, but there were a few that gave off a sense of vicissitudes, so he casually pointed at the antiques and said, these are the real thing, the rest are all fakes. The others watched as he identified the antiques as if they were vegetables. It was an eye-opener. Their eyes were wide open and they could not help but hold their breaths. They stared at Xianhuan intently, hoping that he would reveal the truth. Xianhuan was shocked at first, especially when Tang Jing did not point out any of the antiques. His expression turned serious. However, when Tang Jing pointed out the last antique, his expression turned strange. This antique was a small, exquisite pagoda. It was cast in iron and the carvings were exquisite. It even looked new and shiny. A smile gradually appeared on Xianhuan's face. In the end, he could not help but laugh. Haha, do you really think your instincts are reliable? Let me tell you, you're dead wrong. Archaeology requires professional knowledge. You can't just fool around with your feelings. You're still too young. Young people tend to be conceited. Conceit leads to pride. Pride leads to mistakes. Tang Jing looked at him suspiciously. What do you mean? Xianhuan picked up the pagoda and asked, are you saying this is an authentic antique? Tang Jing could clearly sense the vicissitudes of life in the pagoda. It was just like the other antiques. He nodded. Of course it is. Xianhuan's expression became very interesting. He looked like a child showing off his favorite toy. You're wrong. This is definitely not an authentic antique. It's a fake. A fake? Tang Jing activated his internal energy. His eyes and ears sharpened. He could indeed sense an ancient aura from the pagoda. It was even stronger than the other antiques. Therefore it should be an antique from an even older era. There was no mistaking this feeling. It could not be faked. No, this is definitely an authentic antique, Tang Jing said with certainty. Xianhuan shook his head confidently. It's okay if you're wrong. This is the unanimous judgment of a few of us old friends. This is definitely a fake. So keep your feelings to yourself. If you miss any of this class in the future, don't even think about passing the semester. The others looked at Tang Jing with mixed feelings. Even the most amazing person in the Department of Archaeology who was good at creating miracles had failed. It seemed that his feelings were not reliable. It was better for him to focus on learning professional knowledge. However, Tang Jing did not believe him. He insisted. I'll continue to stand by my judgment. This is definitely an antique. And it's even older than the other antiques you have. After saying that, he returned to his seat. Although he did not get the chance to be exempted from the class, Tang Jing was sure of one thing. That was, the airflow in some antiques could help him improve his cultivation. However, he could not figure out what the unique characteristics of these antiques were. He still needed to study them carefully. Li Xiaotian pursed her lips and teased. Weren't you very confident? Why did you still fail? Facing this two-faced woman who was good at digging holes, Tang Jing said impatiently, it's all your fault. Li Xiaotian, are you really going to follow me forever? Of course. If you don't return my things to me, I'll follow you forever. Well then, you'll follow me forever. It's best if you go back to the boys' dormitory with me and sleep together. Sleep, your big head ghost. Men are indeed not good things. Palace Master's usual teachings are indeed wise words. Li Xiaotian said indignantly. Ring ring ring. The bell rang for the end of class. Xianhuan packed up his belongings and carefully put them back into the box. He gave Li Xiaotian a complicated look, then glanced at Tang Jing proudly. Finally, he strode out of the classroom. As soon as he returned to his office, his phone rang. Old Wei, what's the matter? Xianhuan asked. Old Qi, I found something new about the thing we discussed last time. What is it? That twinkle gem pagoda. Didn't we discuss it for a long time before deciding that it was made in modern times? Actually, it's not. I finally found the origin of this twinkle gem pagoda. It was made by a master craftsman more than 1,000 years ago. It was a tribute to the royal family. However, it was lost during the tribute. Only an ancient book recorded this and even had a picture attached to it. That's the twinkle gem pagoda we discussed. Old Wei said excitedly. Obviously, this discovery was too unexpected. Xianhuan quickly took out the twinkle gem pagoda from the box and looked at it carefully. He asked doubtfully, is what you said true? Of course. We've known each other for so many years. When have I ever lied to you? Xianhuan's expression changed abruptly. He dashed to the office and ran to the classroom at the speed of a 100-meter race. Along the way, the teachers and students were stunned. Was this Professor Qi? The Professor Qi who was known for his rigor? Why was he running like a madman? Was he not afraid of falling and injuring himself with his old arms and legs? Bang! Xianhuan pushed the classroom door open and found that it was empty. The archaeology class was over and everyone had left. There was no one left. What's that kid's name? Xianhuan frowned and slapped his head. Oh, I forgot to ask. I'm so old and muddle-headed. How could I forget such important information? How did that kid do it? How could he be so sure that the Twinkle Gem Pagoda is authentic? Did he really rely on his intuition? Xuanhuan was deeply shocked. Relying on his intuition? He thought it was too unbelievable. He had been in this line of work all his life and he had never heard of such a thing. He must have a knack for it. I must find this kid. His eyes gradually became determined. After a while he laughed again. Ah, God has eyes. I finally found a talented guy. This kid must be carefully trained. Yes, he must be carefully trained. This is the future star of the archaeology world. He was so excited that he was speechless. He had completely forgotten that he had just rejected Tang Zheng. Hey old Chi, what's wrong with you? You're laughing and talking about the future star? Why do you feel like you've gone crazy? Old Wei's voice sounded from the phone. Xuanhuan laughed heartily. Ah, old friend, I finally found the most talented student I've ever seen in my life. That's right, I'm definitely going to take him under my wing. I won't let anyone else steal such a genius away from me. What kind of genius are you talking about? Nothing. If there's nothing else, I'm hanging up. Xuanhuan slammed the phone down and muttered, this old guy has been looking for a favorite student to inherit his skills for a long time. I must not let him find that kid. Ah, that kid is mine. No, there's no time to lose. I can't let this kind of genius slip away. I must go to the school and ask them to find out who that kid is. I must find him as soon as possible. After that, he rushed to the archaeology department's office building. This scene confused many people who were familiar with him. They wondered what was wrong with Professor Qi today. Why was he acting so crazy? Chapter 333. Tang Zheng was not clear about Xuanhuan's reaction. He, Li Xiaotian and the members of 502 were eating in the cafeteria when another group of people aggressively rushed over. Everyone in Yi Dingdang's dormitory, and Yi Dingdang took the lead, coming over aggressively. Who are these people? Why are they so murderous? Li Xiaotian asked the few of them with a smile as he drank a large cup of cola. Tang Zheng, who is he? Li Fangfei replaced Dingdang and asked coldly. Tang Zheng, who do you think I am to you? Li Xiaotian blinked and asked meaningfully. Yi Dingdang wrinkled her eyebrows, even though she knew that Tang Zheng's charm was not small, but for such a great beauty to suddenly appear by Tang Zheng's side made her feel a great sense of crisis. Don't spout nonsense, you're not anyone to me. Tang Zheng anxiously refuted, this black-bellied girl often dug holes, looking at her current appearance she must be up to no good. You heartless person, are you not going to admit what you've done? Li Xiaotian purposely pretended to be resentful and complained. Tang Zheng felt a headache coming on. This woman really did not have good intentions. She wanted to ignite Yi Dingdang, this powder keg. Unexpectedly, Yi Dingdang did not explode, and instead acted as if nothing had happened and said, Oh, I didn't know that you and my fiancé had such a good relationship. Fiancé? The others were dumbstruck, even Li Fangfei, Zhou Yen and the others were no exception. They looked at the two of them with strange expressions. When did they become fiancé and wife? Li Xiaotian looked at Tang Zheng thoughtfully, and thought to himself that men were indeed not good people. When he was in southern Yunnan, he was intimate with another girl, and now a fiancé appeared so quickly. If you don't give me the heaven-shocking bow, see how I'll ruin your good fortune. Fiancé, right? As far as I know, Tang Zheng still has a girlfriend. Li Xiaotian said. Tang Zheng even had the heart to kill someone. Li Xiaotian was really here to dig a hole and had even dug such a deep hole. As expected, the others looked at Tang Zheng with unfriendly gazes, especially Yi Dingdang's roommates. Now, in their hearts, they already had a fiancé like Yi Dingdang, who was as beautiful as a flower in jade, and dared to step on two boats. That was simply something worse. Yi Dingdang gave Tang Zheng a deep look as she wondered how this woman knew about Fang Shishir. But now was not the time to be entangled in this matter. She gracefully held onto Tang Zheng's arm and said intimately, I know more about him than you do. Tang Zheng, let's go out for a walk. Tang Zheng was eager to leave Li Xiaotian. He hurriedly nodded his head and walked towards the cafeteria with Yi Dingdang. I'm full. I'm going for a walk too. Li Xiaotian also stood up and walked on the other side of Tang Zheng. One on the left and one on the right, under the attack of the two beauties, Tang Zheng walked out with his head held high. The others were stunned. Sinosaurus straightened his chin that was about to fall to the ground and said, That works too? Li Fangfei and the other two girls could not hide their surprise. They looked at each other and said, What's wrong with Dingdang? Could it be that the shock was too great so it's abnormal? Yi Dingdang was naturally a normal person, but she could tell with a single glance that Tang Zheng had nothing to do with this unfamiliar girl. She had known Tang Zheng for so long, so she still had some understanding and trust in him. The three of them walked onto a tree-lined path. Yi Dingdang stopped in his tracks, stared straight at Li Xiaotian and asked, "Let's get straight to the point, what exactly are you trying to do?" Seeing that Yi Dingdang was not a kind person and did not fall for her trick, Li Xiaotian said while beaming, "As long as he returns what belongs to me, I will naturally not disturb the two of you." Yi Dingdang looked at Tang Zheng as if he was asking, and Tang Zheng immediately waved his hand. "Don't listen to her nonsense, that thing has no owner, it's not yours, why should I give it to you? Haha, you finally admitted that the heaven-shocking bow is in your hands." Li Xiaotian's eyes lit up as he pointed at Tang Zheng and said, "Who said it was in my hands?" Tang Zheng denied. Li Xiaotian did not mind. "It doesn't matter if you don't admit it, since we have a tacit understanding, I have a lot of time from now on, I will accompany you every day until you return the heaven-shocking bow to me." "Up to you," Tang Zheng said indifferently. "Alright, I don't have a place to stay yet. Accompany me to a hotel," Li Xiaotian said arrogantly. Yi Dingdang raised his eyebrows. This person actually asked Tang Zheng to accompany her to a room in front of her. No matter how calm Yi Dingdang was, his lungs were about to explode from anger. "Shut up, is there a girl as shameless as you?" Yi Dingdang flipped out. Li Xiaotian was not afraid of her, but instead provoked her with a smile that was not a smile. "Yo, you finally flipped out, I thought you would be indifferent. What is shame, I don't understand. In order to obtain the heaven-shocking bow, I will do anything, and might even snatch him away from you, so you better advise him to return it to me quickly." "Li Xiaotian, if you don't shut up, you'll never be able to obtain the heaven-shocking bow." Tang Zheng immediately berated loudly. Li Xiaotian covered her small mouth and chuckled, a complacent and crafty light appearing in her eyes, and said, "It's just a few words, why are you so angry? Let me tell you, I'm not interested in men, hee." With that, he waved his hand and walked away in a carefree manner. Not interested in men, could it be that she was interested in women? She was a lesbian? Tang Zheng could not help but think of the situation in Li Palace. It was filled with women, maybe the holy maiden of Li Palace really liked women. "Who is she?" Yi Dingdang asked jealously. Tang Zheng did not hide anything and said truthfully, "Holy maiden of Li Palace." "Holy maiden of Li Palace? The Li Palace you're talking about is the Li Palace that's one of the three great organizations?" Yi Dingdang was shocked. Ever since she had a conflict with the martial sect, she had also understood the relevant knowledge, so she was not unfamiliar with the name Li Palace. "How did you get involved with the people from Li Palace?" Yi Dingdang felt that he could not see through Tang Zheng anymore. Tang Zheng shook his head. "It's a long story, anyway, she's a burden, she's relying on me, she wants me to give her the heaven-shocking bow." "What's the heaven-shocking bow?" Yi Dingdang was confused. "A very powerful bow is very important to me, so it's impossible for me to give it to her. Furthermore, I risked my life to obtain this thing, so how can I give it to her?" Back then, in the prehistoric heavenly tomb, he had also risked killing monks to snatch the heaven-shocking bow first. At that time, it was only out of revenge against Li Xiaotian that he discovered the mystical aspects of the heaven-shocking bow. The heaven-shocking bow had saved him from the gates of hell many times. It was one of the keys to his life. How could he give it to others? Yi Dingdang did not fully understand, but she understood one thing, and that was that Li Xiaotian wanted to steal Tang Zheng's treasure. How preposterous. "Why don't I send her away?" Tang Zheng stopped her. "It's useless, we are not her match." "She's that powerful?" "She's a pre-celestial martial artist. Furthermore, her identity is special, so there's no need to lower herself to her level. Since she wants to pester me, then let's see what tricks she can play." Yi Dingdang was helpless and said, "Then that's the only thing we can do." However, when she thought about how such a beauty was pestering Tang Zheng all day, she felt very unhappy. She stared straight at Tang Zheng and asked hesitantly, "You can't have fallen for her, right?" Tang Zheng was stunned. Why would she think of this question? Like Li Xiaotian? Please stop joking around. If I can't get rid of my relationship with her, who would like her? Seeing that Tang Zheng was at a loss, Yi Dingdang knew that he was overthinking it and smiled shyly. "I was overthinking it, doesn't she like women?" "Yes, don't let your imagination run wild. I came to tell you something. Xuanhuan Yi is dead, and he died in an alley not far from the school. However, this news was controlled by the school and most people do not know about it. This person deserved to die. An island nation's people came to our country to show off." Tang Zheng muttered to himself and told Yi Dingdang what happened in the alley. Yi Dingdang turned pale with fright and exclaimed, "Why are there so many people involved in this matter? That woman called Martial came again, will your identity as a cultivator be exposed?" This was the biggest secret between the two. When Martial chased after Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang in ordinary balance, Tang Zheng's identity as a cultivator was exposed. However, Yi Dingdang personally promised Tang Zheng that she would not reveal Tang Zheng's identity as a cultivator to anyone, including her parents. It hasn't been exposed for the time being, but Li Xiaotian is also clear about my identity as a cultivator. I'm just worried that she might reveal it to Martial. Tang Zheng said worriedly. Yi Dingdang shook her head. No, since she didn't announce this news earlier, there's no need for it now. Moreover, you still have the heaven-shocking bow that she wants. I hope so. Yi Dingdang looked at him in a daze and asked worriedly, Tang Zheng, all the powers are gathered in the capital, and there's even that demon god. You're too dangerous. Don't worry, I won't die. I'm a cat, my life is strong. Tang Zheng patted his chest and said fearlessly. You're actually joking with me. Yi Dingdang's eyes blossomed with splendor. Ever since she had revealed her feelings to Tang Zheng had been deliberately avoiding her. It was only because she had taken the initiative to maintain this relationship. But just now, Tang Zheng's attitude was something that had never happened between the two of them, allowing Yi Dingdang to see hope. What's wrong with me joking? Yi Dingdang was extremely excited, his face beaming with joy. He shook his head. Nothing. I'll be leaving first. I need to go back and tell my family about what happened in the alley. Yi Dingdang said as she ran away, but after a few steps she turned around and ran back. In front of Tang Zheng's astonishment, her warm and soft lips kissed Tang Zheng's face, and then she ran away as if she was flying. Tang Zheng stared blankly at her figure that was like a cheerful lark shuttling through the trees, disappearing in the blink of an eye. He touched his cheeks as if he could still feel the warmth of her lips. What kind of situation was this? He was actually counterattacked by Yi Dingdang. Moreover, it was in broad daylight, and the chastity of his cheeks was taken away by her. Chapter 334. As night fell, Tang Zheng did not return to school. Instead, he quietly went to the five-star hotel alone, only to find that it was already empty. Sawada Ichiro had actually checked out and no one knew where he went. Since he had already clashed with Sawada Ichiro, Tang Zheng naturally would not let him go. However, he did not expect the other party to be so cunning and actually slip away. It was probably because the demon god's influence on him was too great that he was so scared that he did not dare to show himself. Since that was the case, Tang Zheng had no choice but to wait for the next time he met the other party. He returned to Lu Qingmei's residence. As soon as the door opened, Lu Qingmei enthusiastically threw herself into his embrace and said, You're finally back. I thought you wouldn't come today. Looking at her watery eyes, Tang Zheng pinched her chin and said, How could I not come? I came over after I finished my business. How's Long Tingyu? Lu Qingmei asked worriedly. Don't worry, he won't be able to jump up. Tang Zheng did not find out where Long Tingyu was, otherwise he might have visited him again. Lu Qingmei heaved a sigh of relief and said, That's good. I'm submitting my resume online today and looking for another job. Aren't you going to rest for a few days? Lu Qingmei Yen is identical, shook his head and said, Work is still interesting, it's boring to stay at home all day, but today is quite interesting with Xiaobai accompanying me, it's very smart, as if it can understand what I'm saying. This little guy is quite smart, but his temper is also quite bad. Don't provoke him. Squeak squeak. Xiaobai jumped over, unconvinced as it bared its teeth at Tang Zheng, as if it did not want him to ruin its reputation. Look at how interesting it is. Little White bounced off his hind legs and jumped onto Tang Zheng's shoulder. His claws scratched Tang Zheng's head and not long later, his hair turned into a chicken's nest. Stop fooling around. Tang Zheng slapped Xiaobai on the shoulder. The little guy grimaced unhappily on the ground, causing Lu Qingmei to giggle incessantly. This is a gift for you, Tang Zheng said as he took out a gift box. What is it? Wow, Jade Buddha jade bracelet, you gave it to me? Lu Qingmei was pleasantly surprised. It wasn't that no boy had ever given her a gift before, but he had never been as happy as this. It must be very expensive. Looking at the crystal clear color, Lu Qingmei asked, You have to spend money to study. You can't spend money recklessly. She knew about Tang Zheng's family situation. Seeing that he had bought her such an expensive gift, she was very happy, but also a little distressed. Don't worry, I still have the money to buy gifts. These 2 gifts can protect you. When you encounter a gangster, they can launch a counterattack. Tang Zheng introduced. These 2 jade articles were engraved with the spirit-controlling array. Now that his cultivation had greatly increased, the power of this array was naturally extraordinary. It was more powerful than the jade articles he had given out before. Moreover, the jade bracelet and the jade Buddha pendant were double insurance, which could completely guarantee Lu Qingmei's temporary safety. Lu Qingmei had encountered too many dangers, and Tang Zheng could not bear to let her be in danger again. Is it really as magical as you? Why haven't I heard that jade articles have such a great effect? Lu Qingmei suspiciously asked. Others can't, but I can give you one. You just have to remember that these 2 jade articles must never leave your body. You have to wear them with you, do you understand? Okay, I will listen to you. You are so good to me. Lu Qingmei hooked her arms around Tang Zheng and took the initiative to give him a kiss. Xiao Bai immediately covered his eyes with his claws, looking embarrassed. At the same time, the Ye family fell into an intense discussion. The news that Yi Dingdang brought back was too shocking. The demon god had actually come to the capital, and had even injured the martial organization's people. Furthermore, the Li Palace was also involved. It could be foreseen that in the near future, a terrifying storm would rise in the capital, and the Ye family would not be able to stay out of it. Of course, there was also a huge opportunity. If the Ye family handled it properly, they would obtain considerable benefits, and at least have the opportunity to improve their status in the family. Yi Xuanji sat in the armchair, muttering to himself. He glanced at the few descendants and finally fixed his gaze on Yi Dingdang. He never would have thought that the granddaughter that he did not care about would actually find a fiancé like Tang Zheng, and become the most important character in this storm. Tang Zheng actually had a close relationship with the Holy Maiden of the Li Palace. This news was too important. Although the great families were afraid of the 3 great organizations, if there was an opportunity to deepen their relationship, they would definitely not miss it. For example, everyone knew that the Yin family had a close relationship with the Li Palace, which was why the Yin family could sit firmly on the top of the 4 great families. It did not mean that they would always rely on the Li Palace, but at certain crucial moments, the Li Palace would give the Yin family a hand, which could completely tilt the scales in favor of the Yin family. This was the power of these 3 large organizations. However, these 3 large organizations were extremely mysterious. Only the Li Palace would occasionally meddle in the secular world. As for the other 2 large organizations, especially the Azure Dragon Hall, even the members of the large families had never seen anyone from the Azure Dragon Hall. They only knew that the Azure Dragon Hall was extremely powerful, completely surpassing the Li Palace and the martial organization. The Holy Maiden of the Li Palace was the next palace master of the Li Palace. Since the relationship between Tang Zheng and the Holy Maiden of the Li Palace was not shallow, if the Holy Maiden of the Li Palace was in power in the future, then the Ye family would be able to benefit from the Li Palace. With this relationship, the Ye family could far surpass the Song and Chu families, keeping pace with the Yen family, and even squeeze the Yen family out of the top position. Yi Xuanji could not help but be moved. The others also gradually understood this point, especially Yi Ku. Although his face was calm, his heart had set off stormy waves. He was the eldest son of the Ye family's 3rd generation, and the only male child. In the future, he was very likely to inherit the Ye family's huge family business. But now that Yi Tianlei had returned to the Ye family and halfway through, there was also Tang Zheng, this anomaly which made him feel a sense of crisis. The first time he saw Tang Zheng, he felt that the other party was extraordinary. Although it was just a hurried glance, it left a deep impression on him. Especially after hearing about what happened in Longxiang Mountain, he paid special attention to Tang Zheng. If Tang Zheng crossed the threshold of the Ye family, then his position would be in jeopardy, and his father's position would also be in jeopardy. It must be known that his father was the only heir of the Ye family, but now there was Yi Tianlei, and the other party had the help of Tang Zheng, like a tiger that had grown wings. It seems that I must ask father to return home quickly. Teacher staying abroad to explore the international market is not a good thing. Yiku silently made up her mind. This demon god is not a good person. Wu suffered a big loss in his hands. The other people of Wu Zong will definitely come to the capital to support. Pass down the order. If Wu Zong comes, we must investigate who came to the capital. In addition, we must ensure the safety of Tang Zheng by all means. This is the most important task of the Ye family. Yi Xuanji said in a deep voice. Yi Dingdang raised her eyebrows and smiled. She had been worried about the safety of Tang Zheng. Now, with the promise of the old man, Tang Zheng's safety increased by a few points. Old man, I will go to Yenqing University to protect the safety of the little handsome brother. Feng Xinyang took the initiative to volunteer. Yi Xuanji nodded in agreement. Father, I heard that the kid from Dianan's Long family seemed to have suffered a big loss in the capital last night. He was thrown down from a 10-story building and fell half to death. Yi Tianlei said. Yi Xuanji disdainfully snorted and said, Long Xuanhuan has a son and spoiled this Long Tingyu. This Long Tingyu is not much different from Chu Xiaofeng. He's just a standard playboy. Don't worry about it. If someone can take care of him, it's his own bad luck. He looked up at Yi Ku and praised her. Little Ku, you are much more sensible than those two dandy. People should look up to the excellent, not learn from some ado who can't be supported. The so-called 4 young masters of the capital actually included a do like Chu Xiaofeng. What a big joke. Yi Ku smiled faintly and said, Grandfather is right, but recently I heard an interesting news. It is said that after the Battle of Longxiang Mountain, the Chu family lost a lot of face, and Chu Xiaofeng was even grounded, so the busybodies elected a new 4 young masters of the capital. Chu Xiaofeng was not among them, but Ding Dong's fiancée, Tang Zheng, replaced him and became one of the new 4 young masters of the capital. Yi Xuanji said curiously, these busybodies are thinking about these useless things all day long. However, this also shows that Tang Zheng's appearance is indeed very successful. Fortunately, such a newcomer is a member of our Ye family. Yi Dingdang heard this and was secretly happy. Although this was just a false reputation, at least it meant that her fiancé was accepted and respected. At this moment, Long Tingyu was with Sawada Ichiro. Both of them could not hide the shock on their faces, especially when Long Tingyu heard about the demon god. He occasionally heard his father, Long Xuanhuan, mention the cultivators. Therefore, he was very sensitive to this special group of people and was quite afraid of them. This time, Sawada Ichiro actually provoked a cultivator. Thinking of the various methods of the cultivators in the legends, he shuddered and immediately asked to leave the capital. He did not even care about his body. This was the first time Sawada Ichiro heard about the cultivators. He was also very surprised and said indignantly, Young Master Long, did my disciple die in vain? And that Tang Zheng, is he still not dead? Long Tingyu could not help but roll his eyes at him. Your martial arts are high, but why are you so stupid? Is it necessary to wade into this muddy water for a dead person? Mr. Sawada Ichiro, since Tang Zheng is involved with the cultivators, and is also the target of the cultivators, we don't need to do anything, the cultivators will take his life. We have to leave this place as soon as possible. Go to Dianan, go to my house. As long as we return to Dianan, no one will be able to threaten us. Long Tingyu advised earnestly. Sawada Ichiro muttered to himself in silence, thinking that Yamamoto had also gone to the south before disappearing, and the Long family was powerful in Dianan. Why not borrow the Long family's help to investigate their whereabouts? Chapter 335. A black shadow walked out from the door. This person was as silent as a ghost. It was unknown how long he had been hiding here. Who are you? Get out. Long Tingyu was furious and flew into a rage. Ichiro Sawada looked as if he had seen a ghost. His entire body trembled as he pulled out his katana and said warily, How did you find this place? You know him. Who is he? Long Tingyu asked curiously. Ichiro Sawada's face was ashen. Previously he was not afraid of the other party, but ever since Long Tingyu told him about the various mystical methods of cultivators, he was truly frightened. It turned out that there was such a group of extraordinary people in this world. He is the demon god, the cultivator you are talking about. Ichiro Sawada said in fear. Cultivator? If Long Tingyu was not heavily injured, he would definitely be scared to the point of running away. He looked at the demon god in fear and asked, What are you going to do? Let me tell you, I am the young master of the Long family in Dianan. If you kill me, my father will not let you go. The demon god glanced at him disdainfully and said, Warriors, when the demon clan arrives, all of you will die. The arrival of the demon clan? I did want to kill you just now, but after listening to your conversation, I don't want to kill you anymore. I think I can take in a few servants to do a lot of things for me, haha. The demon god laughed sinisterly. Neither of them could figure out what he meant. They hurriedly asked, What do you mean? I will take the 2 of you as my slaves. When the demon clan arrives, you will not die. Furthermore, you will be able to obtain many benefits. Be your servant? Long Tingyu and Ichiro Sawada were furious. The 2 of them could be considered as people above others, but this demon god actually dared to say that he wanted to take them as his slaves. It was simply wishful thinking. In your dreams, scram back to where the F*ck came from. Long Tingyu did not care about his fear and cursed loudly. The demon god's eyes flashed red as he said, Looks like I still need to spend some effort. With that, he raised his finger and a strange power spread out. Long Tingyu realized that he was bound by a mysterious power, and then his body slowly rose into the air. What are you doing? Long Tingyu shouted in panic, Quickly put me down, what did you do to me? If I want to pinch you to death, it would be as easy as pinching an ant. You still dare to challenge me, humph? The demon god said with a murderous look. Seeing this, Sawada Ichiro was scared out of his wits. Suddenly, he clenched his teeth and swung his katana at the demon god. However, he found that his legs were wandering in the same place. His eyes almost popped out of their sockets. What was going on? The demon god had not even come into contact with him, so why had he fallen into such a desperate situation? The fiend celestial sneered, "This is an array formation. Do you think you can escape? Drawing a circle and imprisoning it?" Sawada Ichiro was confused. Although this was the first time he had heard of this formation, he had personally experienced the horror of this formation. The fear in his heart grew even stronger. He originally had some thoughts of resistance, but now he didn't even dare to nod his head. If the demon god wanted to kill him, it would be as easy as flipping his hand. If he did not submit, then he would die. Although Sawada Ichiro had a prominent position in the country, the people of this country were famous for bullying the weak and fearing the strong. The more tyrannical you were, the more afraid he would be, and the more he would worship you. If you were friendly to him, he would constantly go against you. Without a doubt, the strength displayed by the demon god was something that Sawada Ichiro could not contend against. In order to save his life, he chose to submit. With a plop, he knelt in front of the demon god and shouted, "Master!" The demon god laughed complacently, "Smart man, I guarantee that after the demon clan descends, you will receive enough benefits." "Thank you, master." Sawada Ichiro crawled on the ground. In fact, it was not as easy as it seemed for the demon god to cast the circle prison array formation. He had hidden outside the door and secretly cast the array formation. The two people in the room did not notice it at all. If they had escaped back then, the circle prison array formation might not have been able to trap them. The demon god looked at Long Tingyu again. Long Tingyu was already in the air, waving his arms and screaming in panic. "How is it? Have you thought of an answer?" The demon god walked in front of Long Tingyu and asked. Long Tingyu was really scared out of his wits and hurriedly nodded his head. "I promise you, master, from now on, you are my master, I will listen to you." The demon god smiled and nodded in satisfaction. "That's right, a wise man submits to circumstances. However, I don't trust others the most. Only when I have the initiative in my hands will I be at ease." As soon as he finished speaking, two red lights shot out from his hands and entered the space between Long Tingyu and Sawada Ichiro's eyebrows. The two of them turned pale with fright and shouted, "What are you doing? How do I know if you are sincere in being my servants? But now, it doesn't matter whether you are sincere or not. I have already planted the soul-devouring seal on your bodies. Other than me, no one else in this world can undo it. If the sect betrays me and dares to harm me, your souls will vanish into thin air with just a thought." The two of them felt as if they had fallen into an ice cave and shivered. It was too vicious. This simply did not leave them any way out. Even if the two of them were dissatisfied or had other thoughts, they did not have the slightest thought of resisting. "Don't worry, as long as you don't have second thoughts, the soul-devouring seal will not deal with you. As long as you are obedient, everything will be fine." Long Tingyu and Sawada Ichiro glanced at each other at the same time, then scrambled to say, "Master, we will definitely not have second thoughts, we will definitely be loyal to Master." The demon god nodded in satisfaction. "Then let's leave the capital and go to Dianan. I still have very important things to do, so I can't delay." The next morning, Tang Jing reluctantly left Lu Qingmei's apartment. After tossing and turning for most of last night, Lu Qingmei's fighting strength was completely released. She was even more ferocious than Fang Shishir and almost squeezed Tang Jing dry. Early in the morning he saw Xiao Bai's listless appearance. This little guy had been listening to the wall all night and did not sleep well at all. From time to time he would look at Tang Jing with resentment in his eyes, mixed with a trace of contempt. Tang Jing chose to ignore it and did not take Xiao Bai away. Instead he stayed by Lu Qingmei's side to protect her. When he arrived at the school gate, an off-road vehicle stopped in front of him. The window rolled down and a warm voice sounded, "Little handsome, we meet again. Get in the car." "Hey Aunt Feng, why are you here?" Tang Jing got in the car and asked curiously. He found that Yi Dingdang was also in the car. "Aha, I came to protect you. You're so capable, you even have a relationship with the Holy Maiden of Li Palace." Feng Xinyang said meaningfully, and intentionally or unintentionally glanced at Yi Dingdang. Yi Dingdang couldn't help but recall the long talk between the mother and daughter last night. No one knew her daughter better than her mother. Although Feng Xinyang was usually careless and did not care about trifles, in fact, she also had a woman's innate meticulousness in her heart. From Yi Dingdong's description, she heard Yi Dingdong's concern about the relationship between Tang Zheng and Li Xiaotian. Although the two were now incompatible, the relationship between men and women was hard to say. Didn't Yi Dingdang also have a lot of conflicts with Tang Zheng in the past? When Feng Xinyang heard her daughter's concerns, she formulated a detailed plan for her. That plan was to not show jealousy in front of Tang Zheng. That was something only a foolish woman would do. An outstanding man like Tang Zheng would definitely not lack women by his side. The facts also proved this point, so the only thing she could do was to not act like a jealous woman. Instead, she had to appear magnanimous. Most importantly, she had to show her own value. Now that Tang Zheng was facing a huge threat, accompanying him and sharing his joys and sorrows was her greatest value. Men valued this kind of experience the most and would also respect women who shared joys and sorrows. Gradually, she would be able to open Tang Zheng's heart. When Yi Dingdang heard Feng Xinyang's plan, she felt as if she had awoken from a dream and secretly made up her mind. Therefore, when she saw Tang Zheng get on the car, she immediately threw him a brilliant smile. Tang Zheng was startled. This smile was so strange he couldn't help but recall Yi Dingdong's kiss yesterday. His expression became somewhat awkward. He hurriedly used his words to cover up his awkwardness and said, "Aunt Feng, you came to protect me? This is making a mountain out of a molehill." This is not making a mountain out of a molehill. This is the old man's order. Furthermore, the demon god has already appeared in the capital. We speculate that there will definitely be people from the martial sect coming to the capital. Last time, you also know about the ordinary balance matter. This martial sect is definitely not a mediocre person. This time, the other party will definitely send out a big shot. We have to be careful. Feng Xinyang explained. Tang Zheng's head sank. The martial sect was after all a huge problem for him. Furthermore, last time in the valley, Wu had recognized the jade pendant that was related to the mystery of his birth. He did not find out the reason, or perhaps deep down in his heart, he did not want to know his birth. He was a little troubled, shook his head, and threw these complicated thoughts to the back of his mind and said, "We will try our best to be as careful as possible. As long as there are no accidents, Wu will not recover his memories, and for the time being, we will not be anxious about the matter of the ordinary balance, then we will be safe." "I hope so. Little handsome, I will live near the school for the next few days. If anything happens, call me at any time." "Thank you, Aunt Feng. Aunt Feng, I'm here. I'll go to class first," Tang Zheng said as the off-road car arrived in front of the teaching building. "Feng Xinyang, I'm going to class too." "All right." Feng Xinyang smiled as she watched the two of them get off the car and exclaimed, "Truly a talented man, a match made in heaven. This girl is finally enlightened. Little handsome can't run away. Humph, who dares to steal my daughter's man? I, Feng Xinyang, will definitely not allow it." With that, he stepped on the gas pedal and left. "Baosan, you're finally here. Something big has happened. The instructor was looking for you yesterday, and even the instructor knew that you didn't return home at all. It said that the instructor was very angry, and said that you didn't put the school's discipline in your eyes at all." Zhou Yen and the others stopped Tang Zheng and said anxiously, "That's right, why is your phone turned off as well?" "It's out of battery." Tang Zheng did not have a clear impression of the instructor. He only remembered that he was a man in his 30s with a straight face. "Why is he looking for me?" Chapter 336. When Tang Zheng arrived at the School of Archaeology's office building, he happened to see the counselor Yan Liang striding out. Suddenly Yan Liang saw Tang Zheng and immediately flew into a rage. "Tang Zheng, what exactly did you do? Not returning home at night? Do you still have school rules in your eyes?" Tang Zheng remembered that the school did not stop students from staying outside the school, and there were even people who rented rooms outside the school. After all, they were all adults, so the management in this area was very loose. Seeing him so angry, Tang Zheng calmly said, "Counselor, why are you looking for me?" "Don't interrupt, I haven't finished speaking yet. How can you be like this? Are you still a student?" Yan Liang waved his hand and endlessly roared. Tang Zheng frowned. "I didn't make any big mistakes. Is there a need to make such a big fuss over a small issue?" "You're still not convinced, right?" Seeing Tang Zheng's displeased expression, Yan Liang's voice suddenly rose a few notches. "Let me tell you, I've seen a lot of students like you. Once you enter university, you don't study hard and only know how to have fun. Let me tell you, that's the style of a student from a third-rate university, and this is Yenqing University. Everything has to be done according to the rules. I'm your counselor, so you have to follow my rules or else you can pack up and scram." Tang Zheng's face had already darkened. Did this person eat gunpowder? Unreasonable. Seeing that the other party was still going to scold him and endlessly scolding him, Tang Zheng turned around and left. He was too lazy to talk nonsense with this kind of person. Yan Liang had not finished scolding him, but seeing Tang Jing turn around and leave, he could not help but become even angrier. He quickly stopped him and roared, "What are you doing? The teacher said a few words to you, but you don't want to listen and you still want to run? What kind of attitude is this?" He spoke non-stop like a machine gun, his saliva splattering everywhere. Tang Jing took a step back to avoid his saliva. Tang Jing finally understood why Wang Shiji would say that the counselor had a bad temper. However, he did not provoke him, so was there a need to pursue him so relentlessly? Was this still the quality of a university counselor? If you respect me, I will respect you back. Since he had such an attitude, Tang Jing was even more annoyed. He said coldly, "I have no obligation to listen to your nonsense. You dare to scold me? When did I scold you?" "Just now." "Alright, Tang Jing, there are a lot of rumors about you. What number one fierce person in the archaeology department? Humph, I think it's bullshit. This is simply a disgrace to the archaeology department. During the military training, so many people from the archaeology department went to the military to train, but only one of them did not receive any rewards. Do you think you are deliberately smearing the reputation of the archaeology department?" Yan Liang asked loudly. Tang Jing's heart moved. So this was the crux of the matter. Yan Liang was holding a grudge because of this matter. Back then, 5 people from the archaeology department had been chosen as outstanding representatives to participate in the military training, and only Tang Jing had not been rewarded in the end. Tang Jing smiled disdainfully and said, "You're unreasonable." Just as the instructor was about to curse, his phone rang. Looking at the caller ID, he immediately changed to a smile and said, "Principal, you're looking for me? Did you find him?" I found him. I'll bring him to you right now. This Tang Jing is too outrageous. I must properly criticize him." Yan Liang said. "Hurry up and bring him to my office." "Yes, I'll be right there." Yan Liang hung up the phone, only to discover that Tang Jing had already walked far away. He flew into a rage and said, "Tang Jing, who told you to leave? Hurry up and come back." Tang Jing turned a deaf ear to him and walked forward with large strides. Yan Liang froze for a moment as he gasped for breath. In the past, when he lectured his students would not dare to talk back to him, but this time he discovered that Tang Jing was not afraid of him at all. He felt that his dignity was being challenged. He quickly ran up and kicked Tang Jing's calf, saying, "I told you to run. Let's see where you can run to." Tang Jing's eyes flashed with a cold light as he dodged to the side. He then grabbed onto his opponent's shoulder and threw him over his shoulder. Yan Liang was fiercely thrown onto the concrete floor. A scream rang out as Yan Liang lay on the ground. The passers-by all revealed a look of shock as they looked at Tang Jing in disbelief. Tang Jing acted as if nothing had happened and walked away. Yan Liang crawled up in a sorry state and roared, "Tang Jing, I'm going to expel you. Since you've offended me, don't even think about staying in Yenqing University." Tang Jing stopped and said in disdain, "You don't have the qualifications. Then I'll let you see if I have the qualifications." Yan Liang thought to himself, "I've been in this school for so many years, but there has never been a student who dared to disobey me like this. I have countless ways to get rid of you." "Tang Jing, where do you think you're going?" Suddenly, someone excitedly blocked Tang Jing's path. Tang Jing glanced over and saw that it was Xuanhuan. "I've been looking for you all day. The heavens do not disappoint those who persevere. I finally found you." Tang Jing looked at him in surprise and asked, "Why are you looking for me?" "Ah, of course it's something good. Come on, let's go to my office." Xuanhuan dragged Tang Jing to the school's office building. "Tang Jing, are you scared now? Let me tell you, it's too late to kowtow and apologize now. Don't even think about staying in this school." Yan Liang said arrogantly, not noticing that Xuanhuan was behind Tang Jing. When Xuanhuan walked out, Yan Liang felt as if someone had grabbed him by the neck. He gaped and said in surprise, "Professor Qi, why are you here? What are you doing?" Xuanhuan asked sternly. "I'm educating a student. This Tang Jing is not obedient at all. How can you educate a student like this? What do you mean by kowtowing and apologizing? Don't even think about staying in this school? Do you have the final say in this school?" Xuanhuan asked sternly. Yan Liang was stunned. He did not know why Xuanhuan was so angry. Xuanhuan was the treasurer of the archaeology department. Yan Liang did not dare to challenge his authority. He hurriedly said, "Professor Qi, you've misunderstood. That's not what I meant. This Tang Jing is being disobedient. The dean has been looking for him, but he ignored him." Xuanhuan looked at Tang Jing in surprise and said, "He's got character. I like it." Tang Jing was stunned. This old man was really unexpected. He could not believe that he would say something like that. People should have character. If you're always at my beck and call, that means you don't have a mind of your own. Moreover, if you're a scholar, you should focus on your studies. You can just ignore everything else, Xianhuan continued. Yan Liang wondered if there was something wrong with his ears. Professor Qi was actually defending Tang Zheng. Professor Qi, you can't spoil a student like this. Otherwise there'll be big problems. Besides, he doesn't even listen to the dean. That's outrageous. What big problems? I think you're the one who's in big trouble. You were yelling and screaming just now. Where's your manners? Is this how a counselor should behave? All right, tell the dean that I've found him. I won't be looking for him anymore, said Xianhuan. Yan Liang was shocked. Professor Qi, you're looking for him? Did he cause trouble in your class? What are you talking about? Nonsense? Go away, said Xianhuan impatiently. He dragged Tang Zheng toward the office building. Tang Zheng did not move. He asked, Professor Qi, why are you looking for me? Let's talk here. I have a class later. What class is more important than this? Don't go to class. Let me tell you, I'm looking for you because I have good news for you. I want you to be my disciple. You'll follow me from now on. I'm going to teach you everything I know. You'll have a master's degree and PhD degree. Yan Liang almost bit off his own tongue. Was this real? He twisted his arm hard. It hurt. Damn, it was real. Xianhuan, who had never taught graduate students or PhD students, wanted to take Tang Zheng as his disciple. This was unprecedented. What did this kid have that made Xianhuan think so highly of him? Tang Zheng was also in disbelief. He asked, Professor Qi, are you kidding me? Who's kidding? I'm talking to you very seriously. Xianhuan's face was serious. You were right about the Twinkle Gem Pagoda yesterday. It's authentic. Your intuition is 100% accurate. Although Xianhuan had never heard of such a skill, the truth was right in front of him. He had to believe it. In the end, he decided that Tang Zheng was a genius in archaeology. This was a talent that no one else had. He should not waste this talent. Tang Zheng did not know why Xianhuan had overturned his own judgment. However, to hear Xianhuan admit his mistake was rare and valuable for a long-established professor. He could not help but have a good impression of Xianhuan. Although this old man was stubborn and serious at times, he was also very adorable at other times. Professor Qi, thank you for your appreciation. However, I'm really not interested in pursuing a master's degree. Tang Zheng only went to university to experience the university life. He had no desire to further his studies. How can you waste this talent? No, this is a waste of God's gift. You must continue your studies. Xianhuan grabbed Tang Zheng's arm and refused to let him go. He was so excited that he could not speak coherently. Tang Zheng did not know whether to laugh or cry. Yan Liang was even more surprised. Countless people wanted to be Xianhuan's apprentice, but he was stubborn and refused. This time, Xianhuan took the initiative to ask him to be his apprentice, but Tang Zheng refused. Did the sun rise from the west? However, Yan Liang was secretly delighted. This idiot rejected such a good opportunity. He was right to reject it. If he really became Xianhuan's disciple, he would definitely take revenge on me. Yes, I must make sure this matter is ruined. Yan Liang coughed and said, Professor Qi, since he doesn't know what's good for him, let's just forget about it. Yanqing University may not have many things, but there are plenty of studious students. Just find another one. Xianhuan glared at Yan Liang and reprimanded, What do you know? I've been waiting for decades for such a good seedling. How can I let him go just like that? Don't speak if you don't know anything. No one will treat you as a mute. Yan Liang's face instantly turned the color of pig liver. He remained silent, embarrassed. After a pause, Xianhuan looked at Tang Zheng and said, Tang Zheng, you're the one who raised the conditions. What will it take for you to agree to be my apprentice? Chapter 337. In the past, it had always been people who tried everything to be his apprentice. Now, someone was trying everything to take him in as a disciple. Moreover, it was the highly respected Xianhuan. Many passers-by turned to look at them. Many of the archaeology students did not know who Tang Zheng was. They were all trying to guess who he was. Yan Liang almost fainted. Damn, was there any justice in this world? What exactly was so great about this kid? Xianhuan stared at Tang Zheng with burning eyes, waiting for his answer. However, Tang Zheng shook his head. Thank you for your kindness. My ambition lies elsewhere. Xianhuan gritted his teeth and said, Don't be in such a hurry to turn me down. You don't know the charm of this industry. Today I'll take you to a place. I'll let you experience the charm of this industry before you make a decision. Tang Zheng found it difficult to turn down Xianhuan's offer. Since the old man was so enthusiastic, he would follow him and see what charm he had. All right. Where are we going? Xianxuan's eyes lit up. He was excited. Let's go. You'll know when we get there. I promise it'll be a good place. Then he grabbed Tang Zheng's sleeve as if he was afraid that he would run away. Under everyone's watchful eyes, the two of them disappeared. However, before they could reach the school gate, they were stopped by Li Xiaotian. Where are you going? Hey, it's you. Xianxuan had a deep impression of Li Xiaotian. He could not forget the Ladies of the Nine Heavens painting. Hey, can we talk about this again? Can I borrow the original Ladies of the Nine Heavens painting? Xianxuan asked. The news that the Ladies of the Nine Heavens painting was a fake had spread within a small circle. It caused a huge commotion in the archaeology world. Many people asked Xianxuan how he discovered the flaw. When they heard that it was one of his students, they found it unbelievable. They wanted to know where the original painting was and if they could have a chance to appreciate its charm. Li Xiaotian still shook his head. I'm not the one keeping the original painting. I can't get my hands on it, so I can't show it to you. What a pity, what a pity. Xianxuan let out a long sigh. Li Xiaotian changed the topic and asked, Where are you going? Oh, I'm Tang Zheng. I'm going to see the charm of archaeology. Li Xiaotian suddenly had an idea and asked, Can I go with you? Of course. Let's go together. Xianxuan readily agreed. Li Xiaotian walked to Tang Zheng's side and asked in a low voice, Why is this old man so enthusiastic? He's like a completely different person from yesterday. Tang Zheng shook his head and smiled bitterly. He wants to take me as his disciple. Li Xiaotian couldn't help but laugh. Oh, so you're quite popular? By the way, how did you determine the authenticity of those things yesterday? It's just a feeling, Tang Zheng said lightly. Li Xiaotian pursed his lips and pretended to be mysterious. Is this a secret skill of cultivators? Tang Zheng's heart skipped a beat. He wasn't sure if this was a common skill of cultivators, especially the airflow in the bronze mask. If other cultivators could also sense that airflow and then absorb it, wouldn't they be able to quickly increase their cultivation? Besides, what was so special about that bronze mask? He couldn't tell at the moment and could only say perfunctorily, maybe. Cultivators have so many magical things. It seems that the legends are true. No wonder the people of Wuzong hate you to the core. You have too many advantages in many aspects. Li Xiaotian said meaningfully. Why does Wuzong want to kill cultivators so badly? I don't think all martial artists are prejudiced against cultivators. In this world, only Wuzong hates you. There is a historical reason for this because Wuzong was created by New Era's descendants to guard against you cultivators. New Era's descendants? Tang Zheng was shocked. He had a deep impression of this legendary figure from hundreds of years ago. He actually used such a great method to expel such a powerful cultivator to the sky beyond heaven. Weren't all the cultivators expelled back then? Isn't it unnecessary to create a Wuzong? Tang Zheng asked suspiciously. Li Xiaotian shook her head and said, It seems that you don't know much about what happened at that time. I only know a few words, but after the cultivators were expelled, it didn't take long for some other cultivators to emerge. These were some people who obtained the cultivation method left behind by the cultivators by chance. The purpose of the martial sect was to eliminate these people. Tang Zheng suddenly realized, but he also felt a chill in his heart. New Era really wanted to kill all the cultivators. He did not want a cultivator to exist in this world. After hundreds of years, there are very few cultivators, so I'm very surprised that you can still become a cultivator. Furthermore, your master's cultivation is so high that he was able to avoid being hunted down by Wuzong for so many years. It's truly a miracle. Li Xiaotian praised. Tang Zheng said that Tian Chanzi did not cultivate to such a high realm bit by bit, but was the result of his rebirth. What are you two whispering about? Hurry up and get in the car. Xianxuan stopped a taxi and called out. The taxi went straight to Pan Garden. It was the first time for Tang Zheng and Li Xiaotian to set foot here. This was a huge antique trading market. It was bustling with people and there were all kinds of real or fake antiques. Xianxuan brought the two of them to an antique shop called the Imperial Treasure House. As soon as they stepped through the door, Tang Zheng felt a vast ancient aura blow against his face. He could not help but gasp. There were many treasures in this shop. This aura was condensed from many real antiques. An old man with a white beard wearing a long robe walked over and shouted, Old Qi, how come you're willing to come to my little place? Don't you have classes today? Xianxuan's face was glowing as he said, Old Wei, I've brought my apprentice here today to experience the charm of archaeology. Of course I'd pick your shop. In the entire Panjiayuan Gardens, you're the one with the most treasures. This old man with a white beard was the one who spoke to Xianxia on the phone yesterday. He was also the one who discovered the true mystery of the Twinkle Gem Pagoda. Old Wei stared at Xianxia as if he was looking at an alien. Old Qi, when did you take in a disciple? I thought you never took in disciples? Xianxia chuckled. That was in the past. Now I've met a genius, the future star of the archaeology world. Of course I can't let go of such a piece of unpolished jade. As he spoke, he looked at Tang Zheng with a burning gaze. Old Wei was enlightened. What did you say about the future star yesterday? Was it not a joke? Was it real? Of course it was real. But let me tell you, you're done for. Don't think about such good things. I'm taking this disciple. No one else can compete with me. Xianxia said eagerly, as if he was declaring his sovereignty. Old Wei was shocked. He and Xianxia had been classmates since they were young and had been close friends for many years. He had never seen Xianxia so attentive to anyone. He could not help but look curiously at Tang Zheng and Li Xiaotian. This young man's aura was strange. There was a kind of domineering aura. It was almost impossible for a young man to have this kind of aura. It would only appear in people of high status. Old Wei's eyes flashed as if he wanted to see through Tang Zheng. But in the end, he could not see through Tang Zheng even with his decades of experience in antiques. This little girl's temperament was not simple either. He could vaguely sense a fierce aura. These two were so young, but why did they give off such an extraordinary feeling? This was the taste. Ordinary people would not have such feelings when looking at Tang Zheng and Li Xiaotian, but Old Wei was the owner of this imperial treasury. He had been dealing with different people for decades. Moreover, he had been going through all kinds of real and fake antiques all day long. He had developed a pair of sharp eyes. Old Qi, who's the disciple you're talking about? Old Wei could not make up his mind. Xianxia pointed at Tang Zheng and said, Hey, this is the future star of the archaeological world. Tang Zheng was thick-skinned. He did not blush at such a compliment. Instead, he looked at the imperial treasury curiously. There were many antiques in the shop, including jade, calligraphy, paintings, ceramics, bronze, iron, and so on. Each of them had a kind of vicissitudes of life, which meant that all the antiques in this shop were authentic. This was the amazing part. It was rare for a shop to guarantee that all the antiques were authentic. After listening to Xiaotian's introduction, Old Wei stared straight at Tang Zheng. After a while he said, Old Qi, where did you find him? He's this year's undergraduate student at Yenqing University. I've really found a treasure. You said he's a genius. What proof do you have? Old Wei was skeptical. He had lived for so many years and had seen so many so-called geniuses. Therefore he was not surprised. After all, many geniuses were just bragging. Xiaotian laughed. I'm going to open your eyes today. Let's talk in the back hall. He was very familiar with the imperial treasury. He strode to the back hall. You two hurry up. Let me tell you, Old Wei has a lot of treasures hidden away. Today I'm going to open your eyes and let you understand the real charm of this business. The number of treasures in the imperial treasury was well known in the Panjiayuan. However, most people could only see the antiques placed in the lobby. These were all for sale and many of the treasures were not for sale. These were the treasures of the imperial treasury. This was the foundation of the imperial treasury. It was something that others could not compare to. Seeing his old friend so excited, Old Wei did not stop him. Instead he went with them to the back hall. The back hall was slightly smaller than the front hall. The decorations were also simpler. There were even fewer antiques on the wooden shelves. However, when Tang Zheng walked in, his entire body couldn't help but tremble, and his gaze turned cold because this time, not only did he feel an even denser ancient aura, he also felt a few slowly flowing streams of air. Especially one of the streams of air that was like a clear spring flowing on the stone floor. The clear and melodious sound caused Tang Zheng's mind to tremble. Chapter 338. Tang Zheng hurriedly followed the flow of energy. It was a three-legged bronze cauldron. The cauldron was engraved with lifelike patterns of flowers, birds, fishes, and insects. Tang Zheng was shocked. Could this be a Dharma artifact like the 9 revolving alchemy cauldron? He couldn't help but walk towards the bronze cauldron. The flow of energy became more and more obvious. He even heard the sound of running water. Tang Zheng could hear the sound of flowing water. The others saw Tang Zheng's action. Li Xiaotian was curious. Xianxia and Old Wei exchanged a look. They were both surprised. Xianxia, on the other hand, was relieved. He winked at Old Wei and said, What do you think? Old Wei's heart was in turmoil. He had brought some important guests to the back hall to admire his collection. However, none of them had shown such strong interest in this bronze cauldron. Only Old Wei and Xianxia knew the extraordinary origin of this bronze cauldron. Old Wei's expression turned serious when he saw Tang Zheng's reaction. Strange. Old Wei gritted his teeth. Xianxia chuckled. My disciple doesn't appraise antiques the same way we do. He relies on his intuition. Intuition? Old Wei frowned. That's too surreal. That's because it's illusory to others, Xianxia said boastfully. Old Wei was skeptical. He walked to Tang Zheng's side and saw him staring at the bronze cauldron with glowing eyes. Young man, what do you see? Old Wei asked curiously. What's the origin of this thing? Tang Zheng asked without looking up. This is a bronze cauldron used for sacrificial rituals from 3,000 years ago. It has great research value. Old Wei said. Tang Zheng didn't care about the research value. He only found the flow of energy inside the bronze cauldron to be extremely attractive. He had already determined that this bronze cauldron was not a Dharma artifact, but an ordinary antique. However, it contained such a rich flow of air, and Tang Zheng had to figure out the reason for this. Originally, he thought that the flow of air in the bronze mask was just a coincidence. Now that it had appeared again, it was not a coincidence. It was inevitable. As long as he absorbed these streams of air, his power would advance by leaps and bounds. He would never let go of this opportunity. Noticing that Tang Zheng's expression was getting more and more serious, the other three's curiosity was piqued. Xianxia asked, Tang Zheng, is there a problem? Tang Zheng shook his head and quickly found the other 4 antiques in the room. He asked them one by one what they were and what they were used for in ancient times. Old Wei was already familiar with his collection and answered them one by one. However, he had more and more questions in his heart. The few items that this young man had found so easily seemed to have something in common. Tang Zheng had already found this commonality, which was the sacrificial ceremony. These few items were all used for sacrificial ceremonies, including the bronze mask from yesterday. In other words, only the artifacts used in ancient sacrificial ceremonies would have such a unique aura. Ancient sacrificial ceremonies were often related to gods and the like. Therefore, the artifacts used for sacrificial ceremonies were probably imbued with this kind of spirituality. The flow of air in these artifacts was a kind of spiritual energy. This was similar to the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, but there were many differences. However, there was no doubt that it could improve Tang Zheng's cultivation. Do you have any more of these sacrificial antiques in your shop? Asked Tang Zheng. Sacrificial ceremonies? Old Wei was enlightened. He finally understood what these things had in common, and that was that they were all sacrificial objects. Why are you looking for these? Asked Old Wei suspiciously. Xianxia chimed in, there aren't many sacrificial artifacts in the market these past few years, and only a few have been unearthed over the years. Tang Zheng couldn't help but feel disappointed when he heard that. Young man, you haven't answered my question yet. Why are you looking for these things? Asked Old Wei, his eyes shining brightly. Tang Zheng was taken aback. He was too excited and almost gave himself away. He quickly calmed himself down and said, It's nothing. I'm just interested in these kinds of antiques. Xiaowen's eyes lit up and he laughed in his heart. Ah, he was indeed a genius. Even though he had rejected Old Wei's offer so bluntly, he was still fascinated by the antiques he was interested in. This was true professionalism. Old Wei was skeptical. He said, Oh, very few people are interested in these kinds of antiques. Xiaowen retorted, Old Wei, you're just being biased. In our line of work, we can be interested in anything. Why can't Tang Zheng be interested in sacrificial artifacts? Old Wei forced a smile and said, That's rare. Of course it's rare. Now you see it. This is his intuition. He has a natural sensitivity to antiques. None of us can compare to him. Old Wei sighed. Even he wouldn't have been able to identify all the sacrificial artifacts in the shop at a glance if he didn't have some prior knowledge of these antiques. After all, they were not of the same type. Could it be that his intuition was really that powerful? Li Xiaotian, on the other hand, watched this scene with great interest. She was also very interested in the cultivators. As a former expert in this world, she wanted to carefully understand what was so special about this group of people. Can I touch these antiques? Tang Zheng asked. Go ahead. Old Wei gestured. Tang Zheng's fingers stroked the 4 antiques one by one. The 4 streams of energy were quickly absorbed into his body and transformed into true qi. In an instant, the true qi in his body reached 5 inches and 8 parts. He just needed to absorb a little more and he would break through to the 6th grade of the foundation establishment stage. This was much faster than his cultivation speed. He carefully concealed the joy in his heart and returned to the 3-legged bronze cauldron. The others watched him with curiosity. They didn't understand his intentions. Li Xiaoyan's eyes narrowed into slits. Her intuition was much sharper than the other two old men. She gradually realized that Tang Zheng's aura had changed. What's going on? He just touched the antiques. How could there be such a change? Li Xiaotian was puzzled. Tang Zheng took a deep breath. His hands were placed on the outer wall of the three-legged bronze cauldron. Suddenly, the spiritual power was like a small river. It flowed through his fingers and entered his body through his meridians. Suddenly, a deep sound echoed in his mind. He didn't understand what was going on. The spiritual power that flowed into his body didn't converge in his dantian. Instead, it quickly gathered in his left pocket. Sumeru pouch. Tang Zheng suddenly realized that the spiritual power was actually converging in his Sumeru pouch. Moreover, it was rapidly being absorbed by his Sumeru pouch. Tang Zheng was surprised. He quickly probed his divine sense into his Sumeru pouch. He found that the 9 revolving alchemy furnace was rapidly rotating. The spiritual power was actually being absorbed by it. Moreover, the 9 revolving alchemy furnace was emitting a bright light. The carvings of rare birds and strange beasts were vivid and lifelike. It was as if they were about to fly out of the furnace. Could it be that this spiritual power is very useful to the 9 revolving alchemy furnace and can even upgrade its grade? Tang Zheng guessed. In the blink of an eye, the 9 revolving alchemy furnace had completely absorbed the spiritual power. Its light increased and it was trembling non-stop like thunder. However, all of this was isolated by the Sumeru pouch. Besides Tang Zheng, no one else was able to discover the slightest clue. Suddenly the light completely converged. The 9 revolving alchemy furnace also stopped rotating. However, Tang Zheng's eyes bloomed with ecstasy. This was because the 9 revolving alchemy furnace had really been upgraded. From a yellow grade artifact to a profound grade artifact. This meant that the quality of the pills that Tang Zheng refined in the future would be even higher. Tang Zheng, what's wrong with you? The others saw that Tang Zheng seemed to be possessed and quickly shouted. As if waking up from a dream, Tang Zheng said, I'm fine. You still say you're fine? We called out to you so loudly just now and you didn't even respond. You scared us to death. Xuanhuan complained. Oh really? I'm sorry. Tang Zheng's mind was completely immersed in the 9 revolving alchemy furnace. He actually did not notice what was happening outside. Li Xiaotian looked at Tang Zheng with a complicated expression. Where's Elder Wei? Tang Zheng noticed that there was one person missing in the room. Xuanhuan said, he had an important guest to entertain so he went out temporarily. Tang Zheng, now you know the charm of archaeology? This time, Tang Zheng did not immediately refute. Instead, he asked, Professor Qi, if I study under you, will I have the opportunity to come in contact with these kinds of antiques in the future? Of course I will. Let me tell you, as long as there's a major archaeological discovery in the country, I'll usually be there in person. Since you're interested in ritual objects, you can't let go of this great opportunity. Xuanhuan said. Tang Zheng pondered. Without a doubt, if he studied archaeology under Xuanhuan, it was very likely that he would come across similar antiques again. Then, he could absorb the spiritual energy in them and it would be very beneficial to his cultivation. Alright, I promise you. Tang Zheng nodded. Xuanhuan was so happy that he almost jumped up. He held Tang Zheng's hand tightly and said, Haha, I knew you'd agree once you realized the charm. I was right about you. Don't worry, I'll pass on everything I've learned to you so that you can bring archaeology to a new height. Li Xiaotian looked at Tang Zheng suspiciously. She did not know why he had changed so much. She felt that the more time she spent with Tang Zheng, the more mysterious he became. It took Xuanhuan a long time to suppress his excitement. He kept explaining the origins of the other antiques in the room to Tang Zheng. He even told him that many of them were related to famous historical figures. Tang Zheng was unwittingly attracted. Although these antiques were not as useful to him as the ritual objects, they had their own unique charm. Gradually, Tang Zheng was attracted to them. He could not help but feel that he was wise to choose archaeology when he filled in his application form after the college entrance examination. Otherwise, he would have missed such a great opportunity. Chapter 339. The three of them were interrupted by the commotion. When they walked out, they found the atmosphere in the hall was heavy. A few shop assistants were on guard while Old Wei stood in front of a middle-aged man with a red face. This man was tall, with thick eyebrows and a resolute face. He exuded an aura that made one's heart palpitate. Old Wei, I came here because I trusted you. But now that something like this has happened, my wife's life is in danger. Do you think I should tear down your shop? The man said in a deep voice. His voice was magnetic, but it didn't lose its dignity. There was even a hint of suppressed anger. Old Wei hesitated for a long time before he said, "I also don't know why this happened. Could it be that your wife fell ill because of some other reason?" The man snorted and said, "I've invited the best doctors in the country, but they couldn't find a single clue. This means that this isn't a medical problem. It can only be something else. Moreover, she only had a relapse the day after I gave her the blood jade. If it wasn't because of the blood jade, what else could it be?" "Mr. Qin, the blood jade doesn't have such side effects," Old Wei explained patiently. "Is that so? But why did I hear that the blood jade is formed by absorbing fresh blood? It's not an auspicious item? Why didn't you tell me this when I bought it? If not, why would I choose a blood jade to give to my wife?" The man said angrily, "That's all nonsense. The bloody color in the blood jade is the result of the iron element, not blood." "Humph, that's just your one-sided story. I, Qin Badian, don't like to bully others, but you've caused my wife's life to be in danger. Today I have no choice but to be the bad guy." Qin Baishan's face sank as he was about to make a move. Old Wei was so frightened that his legs went soft. Although he was famous in the antique industry, he didn't have any chance to retaliate against the person before him. The antique industry was filled with people from all walks of life. Thus, Old Wei understood the person before him very well. The other party was a true ferocious person. He came to Beijing alone more than 10 years ago. There were crouching tigers and hidden dragons in Beijing, but he relied on his own ability to make a name for himself. He was a person of the underworld and was a well-known figure in the underworld of the capital. However, he had gradually retired from the underworld in recent years. Instead, he had turned to business and was doing very well. He was a legend, but there was another thing about him that people loved to talk about, and that was the relationship between him and his wife. Qin Badian wasn't as fickle as other people in the underworld. On the contrary, he was extremely devoted and was extremely protective of his wife. He was an extremely good man. This time his wife's life was actually in danger. One could imagine how intense the anger in his heart was. "Stop." Xuanhuan was enraged when he saw his old friend being threatened. He had always been in the ivory tower and did not know who Qin Badian was, so he stepped forward without fear. Seeing this, Old Wei hurriedly stopped him. "Mr. Qin, a man is responsible for his own actions. This is my friend, please don't make things difficult for him. If you really think that your wife's illness is related to the blood jade I sold, then I have nothing to say. I can only let you do whatever you want with me." Xuanhuan bellowed, "Old Wei, have you gone senile? The legends about the blood jade were all lies and lies. What era are we in now? Why do people still believe in such nonsense?" Qin Badian didn't rush to make a move. Instead, he glanced at Xuanhuan and said, "Old man, there are many things in this world that you don't know. Science can't explain everything. Some things are far more mysterious than you can imagine. You may think that the blood jade isn't the cause, but I believe that the blood jade is. If you dare hurt him, I'll call the police." Xuanhuan refused to budge. "Don't call the police," Old Wei hurriedly shouted. Old Qi, you guys should go back first. I'll deal with this myself." But his face was ashen. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that he couldn't deal with this. Tang Jing roughly understood the whole story. This shop had sold a piece of blood jade to Qin Badian, which had caused his wife's life to be in danger. Tang Jing didn't immediately deny Qin Baishan's judgment. After all, he was a cultivator and knew very well that there were many mysterious things in this world. Moreover, didn't he just absorb spiritual energy from a few antiques? Hence, some antiques had unimaginable uses and dangers. Tang Jing took a step forward, standing protectively in front of Xuanhuan and Old Wei. He looked at Qin Badian and said, "Mister, if you have something to say, let's talk it over. It's not right to attack an old man." Qin Baishan's eyes narrowed as he stared at Tang Jing. He asked in a low voice, "Who are you?" "He's my student, my disciple," Xuanhuan said impatiently. Qin Baishan's eyes flashed like lightning. He saw that Tang Jing was as calm as an abyss. He didn't show the slightest hint of fear in the face of Qin Baishan's imposing aura. On the contrary, the aura Tang Jing was exuding was not to be underestimated. "Mr. Qin, this matter has nothing to do with Tang Jing. He's still a student, please don't lower yourself to his level." Old Wei saw that Tang Jing had stepped forward bravely and hurriedly said. He was both moved and anxious. "Tang Jing!" Qin Badian exclaimed. His gaze turned complicated as he asked suspiciously, "You're Tang Jing from Yenqing University?" Tang Jing was stunned. Qin Badian had actually heard of his name before. Xuanhuan and Old Wei were also surprised. Could it be that Tang Jing was very famous? Even this person knew of him. "That's me." Tang Jing admitted. Qin Badian said, I didn't expect to meet you under such circumstances. I've heard many things about you. My wife has also mentioned you before. You've even met once. But since you're here, I'll wait for 3 days. If my wife's condition doesn't improve, I'll really tear down the imperial treasury. The two old men were shocked. They didn't expect that the murderous Qin Badian would take the initiative to compromise after hearing Tang Zheng's name. Old Wei looked at Tang Zheng suspiciously. He couldn't see through him anymore. He asked in a low voice, Old Qi, what's the background of this disciple of yours? Qi Shaoan shook his head in confusion. He didn't know much about Tang Zheng. He also didn't know that just his name alone would have such a huge impact. Heh, it seems that the disciple I've accepted this time is not simple. Tang Zheng guessed. He was now infamous in the upper echelons of the capital. He didn't even give face to the Chu clan. Moreover, he had a mysterious master behind him. He was also the future son-in-law of the Ye family. No one would dare to underestimate him. This also showed that Qin Badian wasn't an ordinary person. However, he was curious about Qin Baishan's wife. He didn't know when he had met her, so he asked, May I know who your wife is? Li Hongqing. Qin Badian said. It's her. Tang Jing suddenly realized. Wasn't Li Hongqing the private restaurant they had gone to for their dormitory party? Tang Zheng and Chu Xiaofeng had gotten into a conflict there. Li Hongqing had even given them a free meal. Li Hongqing was an ordinary person, but the person in front of him was definitely not ordinary. He was a true master. A master that even Tang Zheng couldn't see through. No wonder Li Hongqing dared to embarrass Chu Xiaofeng. It turned out that her husband was not simple. Hearing that Li Hongqing's life was in danger and that it was related to antiques, Tang Zheng's interest was piqued. I don't know if it's possible for me to pay your wife a visit. I know a little about medicine. I'd like to see if I can help. Qin Baishan's heart skipped a beat. He remembered the rumor that the king of medicine had once wanted to accept Tang Zheng as his disciple. It was also said that Tang Zheng's master was also a master of medicine. It was very likely that Tang Zheng's medical skills were also very good. Perhaps there really was a chance for Li Hongqing to survive. Qin Badian thanked him sincerely. Thank you very much. With your help, perhaps Hongqing really does have a chance. Qi Shaoan and Old Wei were dumbfounded. Did this kid know medicine as well? He wasn't a medical student. He was an archaeologist. But judging from Qin Baishan's attitude, it was obvious that he trusted Tang Zheng's abilities. Old Wei couldn't help but sigh. Old Qi, this disciple of yours isn't simple. If it weren't for him today, this shop of mine really would have closed down. Qi Shaoan patted his old friend's shoulder and chuckled. Now you know that my disciple has made the right choice. Then there's no time to lose. Let's go now. Tang Jing said. Tang Jing, I'll go with you. I also want to see what's going on with that blood jade. Old Wei said. I'll go too. I've been an archaeologist for so many years, but I've never heard of anything like this. I want to see if it's true or not. Qi Shaoan still didn't believe that this was all because of a single blood jade. Li Xiaotian and Tang Jing naturally didn't leave each other's side. Qin Badian looked at Li Xiaotian thoughtfully and agreed to their request. The group got into a car and sped towards the Qin residence. As soon as they entered the house, they heard a servant yelling, Oh no, something happened to Madam. Madam has gone crazy. She wants to kill someone. Qin Baishan's face darkened. He shouted angrily, What happened to Madam? Seeing that the master of the house had returned, the servant said in a daze, Madam suddenly woke up. Then she seemed to have gone crazy. She scratched and scratched everyone she saw. It was as if she wanted to kill someone. As she spoke, she raised her arm. Indeed, there were a few scratch marks on it. Qin Baishan's expression changed. He couldn't care less about the guests and rushed into the house. Tang Zheng and Li Xiaotian didn't want to be left behind. They quickly chased after him. A piercing scream rang out. This was Li Hongqing's voice. Tang Zheng found it familiar, but this shrill scream was completely different from the one he saw at the private restaurant. Bang! There was the sound of a heavy object falling to the ground. Then a figure rushed out. There was a flash of cold light. She held a kitchen knife in her hand and waved it in front of her face. Intermittent screams came from her mouth. In addition, her hair was disheveled and her face was strangely red. There was also a blood-red peace buckle hanging on her chest. It must be the blood jade.